And we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another session of the Governor Podcast, the number one Polynesian podcast in the world. Oh, wow. Let's get it, y'all. We have a great show for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a great panel, one panel of guests here tonight. Hopefully, the other panels, a panel to join us later on tonight. I know they may be experiencing some difficulties, but yeah, nevertheless, we have a great show for you guys. There's some great topics that we have discussions tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a great show, and everybody out there that's tuning in for the very first time, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate your love and support. And of course, everybody that always tunes in every single weekend, all my supporters, subscribers, and all everybody that supports my platform. Thank you so much for always showing me so much love. And you guys already know what to do. If you support the content, love these discussions, and understand and respect the grind and hustle, you already know what to do. Smash and press that like and subscribe button real quick. Yeah. But nevertheless, yeah, don't forget, I'm gonna say a quick disclaimer real quick. The type of conversations we're gonna be talking tonight, you guys already know, dating, sex, relationships. So it is gonna be a mature adult conversations for everybody out there under the age of 18. I do have a quick disclaimer.
This content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. Please be advised.
Please be advised. So yeah, if you're under the age of 18, go to sleep. It's already after hours. We're gonna have some real adult conversations tonight. Don't forget, we got the live chat going, y'all. So let's definitely get the live chat. I see some people tuning in already. I can see the viewership going up. So I know you guys are tuning in. Let's get that live chat going. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments. Let me know your opinions. We're gonna have some great discussions with Nina today, and we can agree or disagree. But I always appreciate your feedback. Always appreciate you guys coming on the platform, and that's the purpose of our platform, to have open discussions, whether we agree or disagree. So let's definitely get that live chat going. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget, this is a public show, so always a big advocate to have open discussions. So we're gonna have some great discussions with our guests today, a variety of different topics regarding dating, sex, and relationships. So I invite you guys to be part of this conversation, whether you agree or disagree. Come online and let's have an open, respectable discussion. I'm all for it. So I know there's a lot of women out there that maybe disagreed, triggered, or whatever it is. But I invite you to be part of this discussion. And if all my haters out there,
Silly man, don't be a hater. Be a player, congratulator.
don't be a hater, be a congratulator. Having a different opinion is not a good. I don't think is a good reason to hate somebody. We can all agree to disagree, whether we see things differently. But I think that's the challenging ourselves mentally. I think that's how we find truth and grow as people. So yeah, I'll definitely post the link on the live chat, and you guys can just click on the link and be part of this conversation. I'll pin it to the top of the live chat. So guys, when you guys come on the live chat, just look to the top of the screen. You'll be able to see the link. Just click on it, and you'll be able to jump on the conversation with us. And I invite you guys to come on. As you guys can see, it's only two of us, so there's a lot of room for you guys. So definitely, definitely come on and be part of the conversation, yo. But nevertheless, that's pretty. Don't forget, we do have the super chat donations. Everybody out there that always supports me financially on my channel, thank you so much for all your support, love, and support. You guys already know every single donation is going to be reinvested back into my platform, to my content, so I can give you guys better quality content, and also get my podcast studio, so I can have real live discussions with our guests. So yeah, if you respect the hustle and the grind and the ambition, and what I'm trying to do here on my platform, drop a super chat donation. The best way to do it is through ask it through a question, ask it through a topic, so that way I can answer your questions or topics. So if you want a specific question or topic that you want me and Nina to discuss live on the show to respond to you, ask it through a super chat donation. I'll make that a priority because of your financial support, and we'll be able to reciprocate your love and support through your donation. So much love to you guys that always donate financially to my channel. Much love. But that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. I'm excited to have a very special guest joining me tonight. We're definitely going to have some open discussions and discourse tonight, and that's the purpose of why we have this platform. I'm all about that. I'll allow her real quick to introduce herself real quick. So Nina, go ahead, introduce yourself, your name, your age, what do you do, and what is your relationship status? Go ahead, Nina.
Hey, kia ora whānau. Just quickly, a big apologies to my whānau in Aotearoa because I said this was going live at 5 p.m. our time, and then we had daylight savings. So we're all a little bit mixed up. But hopefully you can join us at some point anyway. My name is Nina Keitani Tinoro, no Ngāti Maniapoto-ahau. I'm from the North Island of Aotearoa, otherwise known as New Zealand. And yeah, I am almost 48 years old. I'm a grandmother. I also have 3 children. I'm single, and yeah, that's me.
All right, no worries. Shout out to you, Nina. Nina, I'm so excited. Thank you for accepting the invite and be part of my podcast tonight and having the discussion today.
Thank you.
Real quick, I do see Fatty. Hey guys, hey, what's up, Fatty? I see you on the live chat. I'm glad you're on here. Thank you for tuning in for our live show tonight. And yeah, everybody out there that's watching this right now, drop a comment. Let me know where you guys from. Let me know what you guys think, and like and subscribe to the channel. So, Nina, so I guess we'll get started. The first topic I want to discuss and want to bring up just to start off the podcast. I always like to start it off hot, hot topic.
Oh.
So, I know you mentioned that you're in your 40s, and I do understand that we are talking about relationships today, and there's a lot of content. Not only there's a lot of content out there that I see, but also women I've invited in the past in their 40s as well, that are in a similar age as you. They always talk about how hard it is to date in their 40s compared when they were younger in 30s and 20s. So my question to ask you is, why do you think it's harder for women to date as they get older, especially when they get in the 40s? And I do have a quick video I want to play real quick, just to give everybody some context. Let me play that quick video. I saw it going viral on TikTok, and then we'll come back right to you.
No.
So I saw this video.
Why?
Can you see it, Nina?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. So this is a video I saw that was viral on TikTok. So I just want to play it real quick.
Why is dating in your 40s so hard? There's no, let me go first and answer this question. Like, I legitimately want to know, why is dating in your 40s so hard? I mean, aside from trauma and trust issues and kids and all of that, why can't I like you, you like me, we talk on the phone, we grab a cup of coffee, and we see where things go? Why are we overcomplicating the hell out of this?
All right. All right. So, but yeah, I wanted to open up that discussion. You have some experience on that. So yeah, there's a lot of women asking that question. They're struggling. What do you think? Why do you think it's harder for women to date as they get older?
I mean, the thing is for me, like, okay, so I'm 47. I typically look younger, so I typically attract younger people in general in my social circles, and I kind of just figure that it's about what you. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, when we ask why is it harder, it's about what is she finding so hard? You know what I mean? Like, I actually think it's quite simple. I don't think age really comes into it. To me, I've had a lot of life experience. I'm a mature woman. I'm pretty relaxed. So that's how I view it. I'm just like that. I don't really tend to look at the age thing as being a thing, because I figure we're all, at the end of the day, we're all who we are, and we've all had experiences in life, no matter how old we are, and it's really about how we approach it. You know what I'm saying? So I think if people are finding it hard, maybe they're looking in the wrong places. It could be anything, really. It could be anything at all. Maybe they themselves haven't really worked out what it is that they want, haven't been clear with themselves, like, this is actually what I want, and that's why they kind of struggle, because when something comes along and then they realize it's not what they want, they're like, this is so hard, this is so challenging. But actually, if you know what you want, then you can kind of put things in place to get that. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I'll respond and give you my question. I want to ask you, like, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you observe, right? I mean, obviously you observe, and obviously you were once in your youth, in your 20s. And let me ask you, comparing your 20s to your 40s, did you ever see that you got more like attention, commitment from men in your 20s than you are in your 40s? I'm just interested to hear that. Like, you notice a big difference? Like,
No,
no, or
no.
is it about the same?
Well, I mean, I don't tend to kind of view myself through the male lens anyway, but
Yeah, I'm
I'm
just
the
speaking
same.
to
Yeah, I
people
know,
that
and
are
I'm just
approaching you.
saying, bro. Yeah, but in terms of and assuming that I'm trying to or wanting to be in a relationship with men, of course, because we haven't asked if I'm heterosexual or lesbian or bisexual or anything like that. But let's say I am, even though I don't like labels, I am heterosexual. I'm interested in men. So the thing is that I see myself as the same person I was back then, and I still vibe with people the same way. I'm never really feeling like, I'm not getting enough, I'm not getting attention. I'm not really like that. So if anything, to be honest with you, like say my dating experience, if we look at that first, I think that's probably helpful. My dating experiences, so I was in a 16-year relationship with the father of my children. That was very committed. We were engaged, etc. Like that was a really full-on long-term relationship. Then that ended, and I was in 3 years of complete celibacy and not even looking at a man. For three
Gotcha.
years, I was kind of traumatized. I didn't want to get out there, and then I started. My dad actually was the one who was like, "Why don't you get out there, girl? You're a beautiful woman. Why don't you go and engage with men and date and things?" So I actually went on Tinder because I mistakenly thought Tinder was a dating app, right?
Yeah, yeah, you
And
found
then
out real quick.
I found out otherwise.
Tinder.
Tinder's like a hookup app, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so basically I just kind of went along with that, really. I went along. I was like, okay, well, I'm in here. I don't know where else to go. We're in lockdown. Like it's not like I can go anywhere and meet anybody. So I'm just going to experiment with this whole Tinder thing. And being a 47-year-old woman, being incredibly transparent about that on Tinder, even on my bio. And I attracted men of all ages, and to be honest, I found the younger ones were the ones that I was more interested in because they just seem to, and I don't like to generalize, but just more of a light energy for me, which is what I needed. Like I found trying to vibe with men my own age, were they just kind of had a completely different vibe, and it wasn't really what I needed.
yeah,
So so that's me, you know.
yeah,
And so yeah, if we yeah, I just think that nothing is a barrier unless you kind of want it to be a barrier or see it as a barrier. I don't think age should ever restrict us from feeling wonderful about ourselves and from feeling beautiful and none of that. And it's hard for women because we have these really full-on experiences in life. Some of us have to endure terrible trauma in life. Some of us have to endure domestic violence and all sorts of awful things through life, loss of children, and our husbands cheating or whatever these things that can occur. And so it can be really hard for us to kind of find that place within ourselves where we feel good about ourselves. And I feel like that's possibly one of the toughest things for older women is that there's been quite a bit of trauma in our lives at times, and we haven't recovered from that yet, or we haven't been able to find ourselves yet, potentially.
yeah. Okay.
Mm.
All right. And you say you were in a 16-year relationship. So what age to what age were you in that relationship?
So I was from when I was 26 to when I was 26 to 42, roughly. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, all
hmm
right, all right. No worries. So So okay. So your comments. So you didn't, for you personally. So that makes sense. So you were dating from 18 all the way to 26, and then 26 you found your long term partner and you got married. But what age did you guys first meet and started dating before you got married at 26?
Yeah, we didn't get married, right? We were
Oh,
engaged.
engaged long term.
Yeah, we were engaged long term. So we met not long before we met. Sorry, did you ask me at what stage did we meet? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
What age did you guys meet for the first time?
Well, it
And
was
started-
when we started we basically started seeing each other immediately. So we
Oh,
met
26.
like a few months after we first met. Yeah, when I was 26, and he was 5 years younger than me. So yeah, so it was actually the night of his 22nd birthday, which is where we got together, when he was 22
Oh, okay.
and I was 27,
Okay.
26. Sorry, almost 27. Yeah.
Okay. And then and for the in your response for the women out there, obviously they know that girl we posted in that video. A lot of women are saying they're struggling with dating in their 40s. It's just, you think it's just something that they have to look within themselves, right?
Well, to a certain degree, but really, this is where we're going to get a bit deep, right? Because if we look at society, if we look at the systems that we're up against in society, if we look at the hierarchy that we exist within as women, we are up against a whole lot of things. And so I'm fortunate to be able to have recognized all of that from a young age. I mean, when I was younger, I was a stripper for 3 years. I worked in the sex industry, right? And
Yeah.
and in the peep shows and stuff. And I learned a lot from coming out of that and recognizing what I had been through as an example of a larger part of society, which is around, we talk about patriarchy and all that kind of stuff. It's like a bad product of that. That's what that industry is. And so when you can kind of be in that, survive it, recognize it for what it is, step out of it and see the bigger picture, then you start to see exactly what women are up against in society. And we are up against an incredibly sexist, misogynist society. And it's like as the older you get, the harder it can get in some ways, because you just you see it everywhere. It's like you begin to really see it and recognize it, and it makes it really hard to find your confidence within yourself when you're up against so much. Basically, for me, as a Māori woman, as an Indigenous woman, I sit at the bottom pretty much of the social hierarchical structure. You sit probably just above me. If we were to look at a social structure, we typically have white men or European men at the top. Then we have white or European women, and then we have a coloured man, and then we have a coloured woman, and we sit at the bottom. So we're dealing with basically shit from all of those layers. And then these days we have a whole lot of other factions that we talk about too, like, our lesbian, gay community and things like that. But I just think that we have to look bigger picture when we ask these questions. We can't just say, oh yeah, all women over 40 are like this. No way. There's this whole systemic picture that we have to acknowledge and recognize, which is part of why we're in the position we're in. I'm not saying that we can't take responsibility for how we carry ourselves, like for how we heal from the trauma, for how we find our own confidence and decide to step out, but it's not always that easy for women, and some of us are more privileged around that than others, depending on our life experience, depending on what we've learned, who we've been fortunate enough to be mentored by, all that kind of stuff. You get what I'm saying, bro?
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I
Yeah.
want to do
Cheers.
no worries, no worries. Yeah, to get my response, I want to ask you real quick, because do you believe that men, because I'm trying to find some common ground here before I respond. Do you believe that men and women, we are attracted to different things?
Ooh. Like different things as in a relationship sense?
sexual dynamics. Like there's what men find attractive or sexually attractive in women is totally different from what women find sexually attractive in men. Is it the same or is it different? Because I think it's different. It's because we're biologically different.
Sure. I think it probably is because we have completely different, we're made up very differently, right? But
All right.
at the same time, I think we're able to go beyond those differences should we choose to. Like
Yeah,
there's some,
that's fair enough.
you know,
Yeah.
hey, you know what I'm saying? Like if you gave me a specific example, then I think we could really unpack
Yeah.
that more.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Give me one.
yeah. All right, so no, yeah, I just want to lay that out. And also, I just want to say for all the women out there just listening, I want to make sure that women, when I give my answer to all these women listening, that I want to make sure that you understand there's a difference between like personal value and sexual market value or sexual attractive value in the dating marketplace. So, as men and women, like I'm not talking about you personally. So I'm sure a lot of women out there and men as well, you guys are great people doing great things. But there's obviously something called sexual attraction. That if you don't have certain sexual qualities between men and women, that is one of the primary things that how we select our partners in the dating market. So if we can both agree that we have different things, I just
Well, I
understand that.
think like I say, I think we do, but I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if you
yeah.
gave me specific, like what's a specific example?
Oh, all right. So perfect. So for me, it's like the reason why a lot of women they find it harder as they get older because for most men, I'm not saying all men, but the majority of men, biologically men, we are wired to be attracted to women. The things that we find sexually attractive in women is pretty much like youth, beauty, fertility, femininity. That's usually the things that men are attracted to. So
Right.
youth, beauty, femininity that's primary aligned with a woman's age. So usually for when women as they get older, those things tend to depreciate, and that's why for men, so we men like younger women, attractive women, and women who are capable of having children. So that's a biological
Right.
thing that men are attracted to. So primarily when women get older, those things that they find attractive, they tend to depreciate over time. So that's why for a lot of times for a lot of women who get older in their 40s, and especially if you talk about the dynamic of the whole dating market, they're competing with women in their 30s and 20s. So if a man is be able to choose a woman that he wants to have sex with, especially in today's social media, when we have access to unlimited options, so naturally for a lot of men, because biologically that's what we look for, they're naturally going to gravitate towards the younger, more attractive, more fertile women. So that's just from a biological perspective. That's probably one of the primary reasons why a lot of women in their 40s. So like I said, I'm not talking about them personally,
Yeah,
personal
it's
value.
cool. No, I get
I'm
what you're
about
saying. I think
the market value in the dating market.
I just think that the dating market thing is also a bit of a, I don't know, it's a bit of a myth because like for me, I am inundated with men hitting on me, I'll be honest, and probably more so now than when I was younger. And I think that's because I'm an older woman and there's a sense of a lot of our young men, especially Māori and Polynesian men, are
Mm.
looking for a deeper connection, actually. That's what I have discovered. So that kind of goes against what you're saying. I acknowledge I'm attractive. I probably look younger than
Mhm.
47. So there's that as well. I acknowledge that. But there is actually, when it comes down to it, when we unpack it, me and younger men, is that they genuinely want a deeper connection than what they are currently able to find in this place you're calling the dating marketplace or whatever. Like they're actually like, there's a part of me, my spirit, that is feeling my spirit wants a connection. And currently with women my own age, and again, this is like you say, this isn't a criticism on younger women. This is just what my experience has shown me, is that they're not getting that connection. Now, when it comes, that's why I'm saying when we talk about are men attracted to something different than women, I actually think in terms of us as spiritual beings as opposed to physical beings, there is definitely commonalities, and those commonalities are our spirit or our wairua has needs that are the same, and those needs are for connection. Those needs are for support and for reciprocity and for love and those things, right? But however, through time and through this whole system that we're all kind of existing in, it's gotten very warped, and it's become about the physicality stuff only, the sex and the body and that kind of thing. I actually believe, as Polynesian, Māori, Indigenous people, we know better than that, and we can do better than that, and we want better than that, and that's what our spirits are saying, So again, I mainly engage with younger men, and that's because they need it, and they're like, I really want to connect with you as an older woman. I want to learn, I want to listen, I want to talk, I want to learn how to communicate. It's all this kind of thing. So I don't know how that fits into what you're talking about, but
I want to ask you this: so the men that you connect with on Tinder, do they look for a long-term relationship with you? Like, do they communicate, hey, I want to marry you, I want to be with you long term, or is it just purely for sex?
well, I'm not looking for that, so I don't
No,
encourage
I
that
know,
kind of,
you're not. I'm just saying,
yeah.
they're looking for that. They're looking for that.
And also, by the way, I'm not on Tinder anymore. I did like a 9-month stint of it, and that's
Yeah,
where I kind of learned
yeah.
this stuff.
That's your
And I
example. The 9 months.
so
Yes.
I don't think they are. I don't think they're looking for that from anyone really. I think essentially they're looking to find themselves, and so that's more what I promote with them, is you got to find yourself, bro. Like, at the end of the day, you're on here searching for something, and the way that that marketplace is set up is you just might as well search for sex, and hookups, but actually that's not what you really want, because it's not going to sustain you. It's not going to sustain your spirit, right? So you do want a deeper connection. To be honest, marriage, I don't know. I barely really have discussions with men about marriage, because most men just aren't really talking about that, They're just talking about wanting a relationship and a connection. So no, definitely. And I don't want to encourage conversations with men about marrying me, because I'm not interested in getting married, It's just not on my
Yeah.
bucket list. But so I think, yeah, no, that's not what it's about. We don't talk about that stuff, to answer your question in a really long-winded way.
No worries. No, I mean, that's why wanted to ask that question, because obviously we know biologically, men, we want to have sex. It's in our nature. We want to procreate, and we're designed that way. So when it comes to sex, men will help. We don't discriminate when it comes to age. When it comes to sex, because sex is just sex. But on that video for that women that we showed, right, a lot of these women, they want to attract a relationship, a long-term relationship. They're dating to find a long-term relationship. And what they're finding out is, like, the guys will still have sex with them, but a lot of the men are not going to wife them and give them a long-term commitment. And that's why I asked that question of why if the young guys, because that's why I say is for men, we'll have sex with you, but then but when we get to choose a woman that we want to marry long term, for most men, I'm saying for majority of men, they're always gonna pick the younger woman. For most men, if they have that option. So if the guy has that option to choose between a 40 or 30 or 20, naturally most men will pick the younger option if he can. You rarely see a man that has options and date a woman who would pick the 40-year-old woman. I've seen examples of that, but it's not many. But the majority of men will pick younger. It's just biologically, men date down. They just want younger, more beautiful women, and you see it all the time. Like, you see guys all the time. Rarely they rarely date women their age. Like, they always date younger. In your situation where you date younger, that's like a minority, even though that happens. But the majority of men that you see, they're always dating younger women. It's just a biological thing.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Like I've talked to my elders about the fact that I've only ever dated and been in long-term relationship with younger men, and I've asked them about, like our traditional society, because I'm more interested in that than this current society. This current society is a mess, man. It doesn't reflect who I am as a Māori woman, and it doesn't reflect who you are truly either as a Tonga man. So. And that's part of that's the issue, is that we're trying to like play in this world that is actually goes incredibly against our values when it comes to like the dating marketplace. It's trash, that's not who we are. And so we find ourselves perpetuating these behaviors that are they're a travesty upon our culture and upon our traditions. They really are. That is not who we are supposed to be as Indigenous people. And so when we talk like this, I'm kind of like meh, because when I've talked to our elders about this, they've said that it was quite common for older women and younger men to be in relationships, and that often an older woman would have more than one younger man. And it's because of the respect that was held upon her position. The beauty you're talking about is not our beauty, our traditional, authentic, original beauty as Polynesian people. It's not. The beauty you're talking about is the Western one that we've adopted from American culture and English culture and wherever else, right? If we look at our traditional beauty was about, it could be based on whakapapa or DNA, genealogy. It could be based on, it could be based on her status. It could be based on her integrity and how she carries herself, and also there's the physicality stuff. And same with the man, and so there's so many stories in our history of ancestors who were, the word is tono for us, or tomo, where they were, what's the word? Like you're going to marry that person when you grow up, kind of thing. So you get born knowing that you're going to marry someone from another tribe. And it didn't matter what their physicality was, didn't matter what their how they looked. You already loved them because it was bigger than you. And so this is the thing. I guess I kind of want to go there because I just feel like so much of this conversation is quite superficial when we talk about modern day, the modern day dating marketplace kind of thing. Oh, true. Who's this?
He's a public guest, devil's advocate. What's going on?
Devil's advocate. I'm one of those. What's up? I've met one of my own. Do I call you Devil or what?
You can call me David, actually. I don't mind. That's my name.
Hey, David.
Yeah. No, Nina, I mean, I don't know anything about the Māori culture, so obviously I'm not going to go into that. But I'm just saying from what I see in the Tongan culture, in most cultures, primarily in the world, usually when they have arranged marriages, it's always like the older man and the younger woman, right? I rarely see like arranged marriages in other cultures, even the Tongan culture as well. That I saw they will have the older man and they'll date a woman that was older. So and that's why I see it. That's why I give my answer biologically. It's just, man, what we find sexually attractive in women is just basic human, beauty, femininity, fertility, and obviously for a lot of women out there,
functionality.
Yeah, and then of course I'm just talking about the initial attraction, and I'm just talking about like getting into a relationship. Obviously, when people get into a relationship, there's a whole kind of dynamic and stuff happens and you can break apart. I'm just saying for a man to approach a woman, hey, I like you, attracted to you, I want to marry you. It's always come to those sexual differences, and unfortunately for a lot of women, they make some choices where those things that men find attractive, they don't utilize it effectively, so that way they can attract the type of men they want. So and then the consequences of that, it gets harder to attract a solid mate as they get older. Yeah, and that's
okay.
just.
Well, like I said, you're talking to a 47-year-old woman who dates younger men, so I'm breaking all your rules, bro. Like you can say that. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
say
you're the
all of
exception.
that, but at the end of the day, I'm living proof that an older woman can pull younger men, or however you want to phrase it in modern
Yeah.
terminology, and that that they, you know, that I'm not going to push myself on them over and above a younger woman, because I personally respect younger women, and I'm like, hey, you know, but I just think that, I don't know if that theory is
So
maybe in America, maybe in the States, and you guys might be able to pull out a whole bunch of stats on me, but again, I'm living proof that I am an older woman who dates
Yeah,
much
in
younger
can I
men.
respond?
yeah. I'm gonna give you a chance. Yeah, in America, statistically, that men date younger women. When they get married, the average age of a man is like 30, and the average age of a woman getting married is like 28, 29. So statistically, for most men in America, they date younger women. But I want to ask you, like your circumstance, is that generally the majority of women that you see, like are older women are just most older women are dating younger men, or that's just like a small minority, or
Well,
like
I think I just think that it comes back to this kind of trashy societal structure that we're living in the system, where we actually have been led to believe that age is a thing. And so most women my age who are single won't even consider a younger man, because they feel like they're not allowed to. It's one of those taboo things, you know what I'm saying? Whereas I'm like really open about it, and I'm encouraging them. You know, I'm like, sister, if you want to be with a younger man, go and be with a younger man. If he's 20 years younger than you, who cares? He's of age. If you fall for each other, that's your thing, right? And so I just think that there's still this kind of taboo, which is very Western, around it. And whereas I'm beyond that. I don't really care about the Western taboo stuff. I'm interested in my own people's taboo more, and our own traditions. But the Western stuff, psh. So I feel like if our women were in a society that supported us, instead of always putting us under the microscope and going, man, woman this, woman that, older woman this, older woman that, da 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 da, which sometimes you guys do on the show, right? If we existed in a society that encouraged us, supported us, uplifted us up, raised us up, like used to be in our traditional societies, especially Black and Indigenous, then we would feel free to be who we are, to feel beautiful like we are, to feel strong in our position as a wise member of our community, and to be allowed to engage with younger men freely. Currently, we cannot do that, as I've explained why. So that's just my thing, just saying, as an older woman with experience on this. Yeah.
no worries. Thank you for sharing. I'll pass it. Devil. So what do you think? I'll pass it to you, man. What do you think on the topic we started off with
Yeah.
tonight?
First off, how's my audio? What's up, guys?
It's good.
How's everyone doing? All right. I'll just respond to the most recent point she made. It sounds like she's somewhat of an exception to the rule, and she's kind of aware of why. You know, like it's funny that she acknowledges that, and she does look, you know, younger than she is, and acknowledge
You
that
can
that
say
might.
you. You can talk to me like I'm you,
Okay.
not she. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
You can say you. My name's Nina, by the way. Yeah.
Nina, did I?
Yeah.
Do you feel disrespected or something?
Well, you're talking about me third party, but we're in a room together, right? The
I
three
guess
of us. So
technically, digitally, we are.
yeah, you talk
Yeah.
to me like we're in a room together. So I will talk to you
That
as you,
sounds
and I will.
so.
Is
So
that cool?
this
We're good.
actually perfectly ties into the femininity argument. So, you see a lot less feminine traits in older women, and I think we just got a glimpse. I mean, you did it cordially, but there is like a passive aggressive undertone, and men can pick up on that. Like if you were like I love like if it was in person, I think it's fun to shoot back and forth like that. But over a long period of time, most men who have options won't put up with stuff like that.
Wow.
Depending on its timing, and you know, do I feel like you're trying to make me a better member of society, or do I feel like you were reacting to what I said is kind of like what I try and see through it. But the point I was gonna make was well, you can look at it from an evolutionary biology perspective, or you can look at it from like a spiritual perspective, like some of the points you were making. The evolutionary, well, first off, do you believe in any of that crap? The evolution and lizard brain, all that kind of stuff? From
I
fight or
believe
flight.
in.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, we have our own story on how we evolve as humans, and so
Okay.
I deeply respect that and hold that in very high regard. And so I'm
Okay.
not so sure what you're talking about, because that's most important to me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, some people say that they think, evolution is a load of crap, and I just try and give them a shorter summary if that's where they are, because I'm not here to have that argument, But put simply, it's if there were men that once preferred or were physically attracted to older women, over time they would have been bred out of existence because of the way fertility works. Women have like a much shorter window to do things like start a family than men do. And so they kind of like have to get their shit together faster than men do, if that is what they want long term. Some women have no interest in having a family, but that is a pressure that women experience to like more of an extent than men do. So while it does seem superficial at glance for men to value physical more so than other traits, if they didn't, there would be, especially like when we actually evolved into what we are now over the past thousands of years, like the number of people in your tribe or your civilization meant like if you were going to win the next war or not, if you're going to survive the next famine, if you had enough people to grow enough food to last through the next winter or whatever. So, and I actually think that that's the reason why so many things are incorporated in religion and tradition that are by today's standards very like homophobic, is because reproduction was everything, and in a society where it doesn't matter anymore, it is kind of ignorant to say that, like gay people are less than people. It's more than ignorant, because there's no need for that kind of mindset anymore. But just numbers and reproduction, there used to be a time where that meant survival, and we evolved in that time, and we still have all those mechanisms that we evolved to have. So and some of them are still there for a good reason. Like I'm going to speak in generalities here, and obviously you're the exception to a lot of rules. So like women tend to, from what I've seen, women tend to prefer men that have the potential to lead them, whereas a man, it's not as much of a deal breaker. Like I've seen women that tend to be really attracted to people that they can learn things from like a entrepreneurial or financial standpoint, to just life experience, wisdom. And for men, it's not repulsive. It's probably a plus, just to less of an extent than it is to women. And I think we might have evolved that way because of how vulnerable women are during pregnancy and with the main responsibility of raising kids. Like while they were doing that, the man had to feed 3 mouths. So it makes sense that they would evolve to seek out a leader with the ability to provide. So I don't want to make too many points in a row without you guys having the chance to respond, but I just wanted to touch on evolutionary biology for anyone that might see this in the future that might believe that. Like I really do believe a lot of those things. I watch professor at I believe it's Stanford University, posts his lectures online, and he's like one of the top evolutionary biologists. His name is Robert Sapolsky, but it's like super interesting. Like it's not like a Steve Irwin, but like a very, very much more like intellectual version of him. And he talks about like the human body part by part and why it evolved to be the way it was, and like the psychology behind what we do. It's very interesting. So I'm a big believer in it, but I'm open to new information as always. But what do you think of that? Like kind of, because like maybe all this extra talk about femininity is just fluff, and we're protecting the parts of our brain that we can't change. Like there's a part of our brain that prefers fertility and youth, and then the rest of the stuff we form around it is just like, how when people are accused of thinking with their feelings first and trying to justify it with logic instead of how it should be. Maybe we do that with our gut feelings and our lizard brain first. So you kind of have to acknowledge your bias as a human. We're not like computers and perfectly logical beings.
All right, go ahead, Nina. You have a chance to respond to.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, wow, for starters. You know, I mean, it's interesting for me, for starters, like, I have to address what you said about me being passive aggressive, or women being my age being passive aggressive, right? You made a point of that. And I find that interesting in itself, because that is what to me, that's like a what's the word? Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you're not acknowledging. Once again, you just bounced in this room. I have no idea who you are. You know, like, I'm expected to just be okay with that. You know,
No,
like,
you can disagree, absolutely.
Yeah, no. Yeah, well, I am, because you're also not acknowledging I'm a mother of 3 children. I'm a grandmother. I'm a woman who's lived through trauma. I'm an Indigenous woman. I've already spoken about the social hierarchy thing of being at the very bottom of the social hierarchy, and we keep talking about this stuff, but we have to acknowledge, especially as people of color, especially as Indigenous people, that's a reality. For me as an Indigenous woman, you want to call us into this space, you better be prepared for sisters like me who know this stuff to tell you our truth. I live in a completely different country. We're governed, you know, like, it's like when you come in here and say we have our own cultural values and cultural traditions and ways of even entering into spaces. You know, you guys are doing a very American thing here, but even for us holding a virtual space like this, we have a process that we do that. You just bounce up on in here, bro, like a gate crasher. Like, if you came and did that in my virtual space where we have processes and protocols, you get bounced straight back out. So it's like, so we talk about leadership. Leadership isn't just, you know, we can't just look at ourselves as these slivers, like a sexual and a blah. We are entire holistic beings, and we're cultural beings, and we're Black beings and Indigenous beings. So I do get offended a little bit when we kind of go into that area, because it's like, no, that's not who I am. You're not taking into who I am as a holistic being. You're not respecting me, and this is part of the issue we have in society.
Can I make sure I'm understanding what you're saying before you move on to the leadership piece? Because I was just trying to say that I found the timing of your like correction to be disingenuous. Like, I didn't believe that you were truly concerned with the way I addressed you. I thought you were just reacting to or disagreeing with what I said. And I would have brought that up if you were well, obviously I wouldn't have called older male like, well, that's exactly why we prefer femininity, because you're an older male ripping into me or whatever in the middle of my point that you disagree with. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I would have, obviously, because he wouldn't have been an older female. So like, I did draw that I did use as an example of a behavior that's not as feminine, but I'm not like, whether you're a mom or not has nothing to do with that. Like, I don't know why any of that would like come into play. If a dude was like super aggressive and short, I might have made a short man syndrome comment, you know, like it's
let me put it to you simply.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you're a son of a mother. I'm a mother of sons. I also have a grandson. If my son was to bounce on into a room and not acknowledge the people in the room, you already know the brother Will. You don't know me. You bounced on into the space. If my son was to bounce on in here and I'm sitting in here with Will, and or say if I was Will and a woman was in there and he came on in and was just like bounce on and not even saying hey in acknowledgement, and then started talking like she's this, she's that, I'm going to pull my son up about that, because I care about you. You represent my son, and so does Will. So I care about you. The thing that you fellas are not recognizing here, the whole reason why I'm even on this podcast, and I've got my community who are going to be watching this, who have already said to me, oh, they're misogynist and they're awful and they're disgusting and they're disgraceful. Not just women saying this, but men as well. My brothers saying this to me. My whole thing is, anyone who knows me knows I have a huge heart, and especially for Indigenous people. If you had bothered to research me and research my social media, that is clearly evident. So I've come into this space as your mother, your auntie, your grandmother, your sister, to say some things to you as well. So yes, young man, David, devil's advocate, when you bounced on up in here and spoke about me like that, of course I'm going to take offense to that. Do not then turn it around and label me as passive aggressive and all these other things. I'm speaking to you as somebody who cares about you, actually. Whether you like that or not, that's by default, because you're a member of my global community as a Black brother. So just sit on that for a little bit, okay? And that's what I'm getting at. When we come into these spaces, we need to respect each other, and then the way that we speak about each other and speak to each other as well.
Okay.
And you guys haven't been doing that. On your podcast, a lot of your labels and stuff, I've written them down. Some of them are just so disrespectful to women. And I won't tolerate that as a member of the global
We can talk about that.
Yeah, we
before we
should.
move on to that, you're starting to make
Well,
the same point again. I didn't
No.
want to come at your character. I wanted to highlight just that interruption and then link that to a trait that men tend not to prefer. I wasn't questioning your like, you know, your character. I understand you're a mom, but like, and you're a mom of sons, but that doesn't like, when we have discussion, that doesn't put you above me. But even if you have more wisdom than me, if
I'm
you
not
make a
above
better
you.
point than I do, then kudos to you. It doesn't matter if I make a better point than you, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how many kids that I have. I'm not talking about kids when I don't have kids. Like I just said, I found the timing of that point to be a little disingenuous. That's all. You could have said,
Excuse
well,
me,
I didn't
so
mean it that way.
Was I supposed
So,
to allow you to continue talking about me
and
like
by the
that,
way,
like I'm a
I did
sheep?
acknowledge you when I came in here. So you said about
You
3
did.
times that I didn't acknowledge you. I said, hey guys, what's going
Okay.
on? I would like to acknowledge the most recent point, even though I came in here to acknowledge one that
Thank
was
you.
way back when.
Okay, I
So
agree with you. And that was from
yeah,
me also saying, Kia ora, who do we have here? And making it
yeah,
really obvious that I need to connect
yeah.
with you. But
We
what I'm
acknowledge each
saying
other.
is,
Yeah.
we acknowledge each other, but you know, like we if we're going to talk about these scenarios and things, we have to be able to talk about them safely as well. And at the moment, the way that you are conducting it by speaking about me like I'm somebody over there, like you don't even have it feels like you don't even have the respect for me to be able to address me face to face. And so if we can talk about men are this and women
Okay.
are that, but at the end of the day, as spiritual beings, do we not want to connect with each other in order to make this the best possible thing that we can, in order to grow and be better people? Like,
Okay, so
don't
I
be
think
shy,
what I
brother.
should have
Don't be
done,
shy.
I think what we should have done,
Yes.
if you would have said, I feel like you don't respect me enough to address me like I'm in the same room as you, I would have said it's not a matter of not respecting you. Like if we're in a room full of people, you know, like there's the type of debate where we're both on a stage or of some sort. We're kind of on a stage right now because this, you know, can get clipped and a lot of people can see it. In some debates, you say you make a good point, but in other debates, you can say she makes a good point. There's no disrespect, and I didn't intend. I mean, these are very touchy subjects we're talking about because there's a group of people behind every statistic we have, you know, or that we mention, and there are people on the good side and the bad side of those statistics, like your social hierarchy point you made. And if I make a point that I don't think the timing of your comment was, or I thought it was disingenuous because I was in the middle of making a point, there are a couple things in the undertone. If I step back and look, like when a guy's called bro from a woman that is in a conversation where she disagrees with them, a lot of times there's a disrespectful undertone. And again, that might not have been your intention. That could be a habit from, you're in a different culture. So I didn't call you out like and assume that you meant it as a disrespectful like gesture, but I did sense disingenuity, and you could have said like, well, that was wrong. That's just how I communicate. And yes, I interrupted you, but like, I've interrupted you too, because I don't like when, and I do this a lot too. I'll make it like one point will build up to another point, and you guys feel free to stop me, because it's better if we just address them one at a time. Just like you pulled me back to the femininity comment I made about you. So your gesture, I'm guessing you didn't mean as a matter of disrespect because you cared, because you felt that I disrespected you, and if we were here mad and our intention was to disrespect each other, you wouldn't care what I said. So okay, so to me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, your gesture wasn't meant in a disrespectful manner. And when I said that I felt it was disingenuous of your timing and the bros and the undertone, like it wasn't intended to be demeaning or disrespectful. Is that what I'm getting?
Let's just go with that, David?
Sure.
Let's go with that.
Cool.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to come in. I was expecting women to come in. So let's just sit on that a little bit too. I'm now sitting in a space with two men on a podcast that I've already been told is misogynistic. Okay, and so there's that side of things. But I'm a very open person. I'm going to go with that. But yeah, spaces, the way we move in space is really important. And you guys know that because you hold these spaces week after week after week. And you also know that these conversations are triggering for people. And so how you hold these spaces and how you facilitate them and who you allow in and out is also on you. And then how you bring those people in and out. Like, maybe a little, hey, okay, you did introduce me to him well, appreciate that. But maybe a little moment to kind of go, okay, I wasn't expecting you. You're not on the flyer. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So just a little bit of aroha, we call it, a little bit of love, compassion, sympathy will go a long way for each other right now as we continue to embark upon these conversations, which are really, really important, and I encourage us to see each other as a family right now. I won't call you bro again, either of you. I respect that. But I also
maybe
would like
that's
to be
just me too,
spoken
though.
to.
Like if it's you and Will, then maybe he doesn't have a problem. Maybe I'm just sensitive about it. But like I've never seen, at least in America, different culture, I've never seen a girl. Most of the women I interact with are like within 10 years of my age, but like, so that's a different demographic. But like, I've never seen a woman call a dude bro outside of a contentious like disagreement. Will, what is your experience with that? Like, because I'm sure there are women out there who it's just habit. So like, I can't assume that it's disrespect every time.
The one thing I would say is like, we're not here to disrespect each other. Obviously, I know David's podcast. Obviously, Nina, I know you just today, but I know the background of a position of honor and the values we hold ourselves, especially when we communicate. So maybe it's just a clash of cultures, of how we, temperamental cultures, how we communicate. But I do understand that that's not the case here. So I'm glad I wanted to allow you guys to be able to communicate with each other. I guess the purpose of the podcast, if there is a disagreement between two people, and we can have that discussion. But I just want to make it clear, we're not here to disrespect each other. I know there's people on the live chat right now, and I respect Nina for being on here, and also give her a special shout out because there's a lot of people out there that had told her about what they thought about this podcast on a very negative light, but she was open to come on here. So I'm very respectful on that, and I'm all respect of you as a guest to take that challenge and be on here to express your views. So I do appreciate that.
Guts.
It takes a lot of guts, and I'm open to listen to you from Nina. So I'm not here to just to talk about what I believe. I want to also listen to her feedback as well. And but I just wanted to to make that clear for all of us. Like, we're just here to have a discussion.
Well, that's
And
good.
I'm glad. Yeah, we're just here to, and we're
And
here.
I-
Whether we agree or disagree, that's fine. But we're not here to focus on each other personally. We're just gonna here to focus on the exchange of ideas and dialogue.
Yeah, and I will acknowledge my home court advantage. I do agree with you on a lot, Will. So like a guest from a completely different cultural and social circle
we respect it.
does we need to make sure that if you do end up pulling more people up on the panel that are more aligned with our views, we got to make sure she has a shot to talk about what she thinks. Otherwise, you get the echo chamber effect. So
no worries.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I wanted to move on with the conversation, and I wanted to allow Nina. There's a lot of things that she wanted to address with me, based on a lot of the things that she heard, and I wanted it. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm ready, and because I like having these discussions, exchange ideas, and like I said, I really appreciate people that, even though you may hear some negative things, but you are willing to have a conversation. So I really appreciate that about Nina. But go ahead, Nina. What are the things that you wanted to bring up and have discuss?
Well, I think really, for me, the thing that's been highlighted to me, and that I've then gone and kind of had a really good look at around what you guys are doing, and again, I like I said to you, Will, when you first contacted me a couple of days ago, I said yes. Well, number one, because I am a yes person and I love to take opportunities and see things as opportunities, but also because I love to talk about have these courageous conversations where we can talk about things that are typically quite taboo, but also I enjoy talking about them in a way where we challenge ourselves, for sure, like we're doing at the moment, the three of us, and I'm also, as an Indigenous woman who has a background of, like I said, I worked in the sex industry as a young woman, as a peep show dancer and a stripper. Then I came into film and television and event management and health, worked in health. I've got a really broad perspective. And now I manage, for the last 14 years, I've been managing my younger brother, who is a high profile artist here in Aotearoa. He's a household name. Everyone knows who he is, right? But I also spent time in abuse intervention where I saw the trauma of Indigenous women, and I also facilitate workshops in professional respect where we try to teach across different factions of society to respect each other, and how we move in spaces and how we be amongst each other in spaces. So we also talk about sexual harm from the wolf whistle through to rape. And we also talk about cultural stuff, as well, and gender and everything. So one of the things I really learned, and I've said it already a couple of times, around how we sit at the bottom of the hierarchical system, right, as Indigenous women, as women of colour, is that we really are up against, if we don't know it, if we can't see it, if we don't understand it, we don't realise it. All we know is it feels heavy. There's this big weight on us and it feels hard to get anywhere. And so we need the ones who are above us to help us, and you guys sit above us, right? And so that's why these conversations are really important, so that we can try to help each other understand how we can actually move to uplift each other and support each other. And one of the things I really noticed in the podcast, not that I've looked, you got over 3,000 videos on there, right? I can't be watching those, or I'm going to, I'm 47, I'll be there till I'm 90 something. But I've watched a lot of them, and some of them I really liked, and I really love them, how these conversations go out. But overall, I noticed that there's this real continuous theme of it being, I think I used the word denigrating of women, where it just seems to constantly be about looking at women as being the issue, you know, and I wrote down a whole bunch of the freaking titles that you use, you know.
Let's do it one. Let's do it one by one.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
address
no,
one.
well, because I to be honest, we don't have to like go right into them, but I just thought if today there was a way that we could kind of shift, because I work in obviously marketing and media as well with my brother, you know, and so things like titles and what we're presenting to the public is really important, and making sure that it's balanced and it's of integrity and that it uplifts others. Some of these are just not doing that to women, man. And I'm on here to ask you that if you could do that, if you could think about how you could better uplift sisters, you know, because it's hard for us. I'll find an example, right? Like even say, women are the gatekeepers to sex. Your choice, your fault. Right? I'm just like, I felt flawed like that. And there may be a bit of backstory to that, but if I take it at face value, man, that feels so inappropriate, incorrect, hurtful. Also, it's making me out like, you know, it doesn't take any responsibility. The male does not take any responsibility in that statement. It's talking like I'm like the gatekeeper, like you can't have sex unless I say so, kind of thing, which we know is also true, right? But sex is consensual, and it's like it blames women. Blaming the woman. So I wondered, if you guys could respond to that.
I just have a quick question, kind of in response, and then Will, I think you're muted.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So my question would be, if that title was men, because this is the flip side of that coin. I've heard that phrase many times, except without the "your choice, your fault." But like, women are the gatekeepers of sex, and then it finishes, men are the gatekeepers of marriage and or long-term relationships. And in Western culture, a lot of the times, it's the hardest for men to cross that first threshold for the women to choose you out of all of her options, and for the relationship to go as far as sex, you know, whether it's right away or it takes time. And then usually after that threshold's crossed, you know, there's the cliche of the nagging girlfriend about, you know, when are we going to take this further? I do think more women tend to push for more than just a relationship than men do in modern Western culture. So you can agree or disagree with that. But my question was, the flip side of the coin is, if his title would have been Men Are the Gatekeepers of Marriage, if she divorced, we call it divorce, grape with a G to be YouTube friendly. But if you get screwed over in divorce, it's your fault. Would I just
right?
I want to be like the contrarian, like men wouldn't be offended by that, because we know we get divorce graped all the time because men aren't aware of the system and how to navigate it, and how hard it is to navigate. You know, like there are financial incentives to take the kids away from the higher earner, which has historically been men, and the judge and the lawyers and the whole system makes money off of it. So I just wanted to pose the question: what do you think if the title or your next video was, you know, you chose who you married, now it's your fault, you know, or men are the gatekeepers to marriage, you got screwed over, now it's your fault. What the discussion would be like, and if it would have been, if there would be any outrage or offense behind that, you know. That's kind of the flip side.
I get what you're saying totally. I appreciate you flipping it like that. That's good, and that's what we've got to do, right? We've got to keep flipping it. And the thing is that, I mean, I know I wouldn't say that myself. That's just, not only is it a sweeping generalization, but it's a bit rough, you know, to say to someone, you know, you chose it, your fault. But that's also because you got to remember, I come from working with women who have been in domestic violence relationships and things like that too, and men, actually working with men as well. So I think it just, that particular one, it's like, because it's talking about our bodies and sex, and because there's so much sexual abuse, you know, and there's so much objectification of women in society. It's like we don't need much more, and that title just screams of it. Again, I don't know the background. I didn't know the other side of it, the marriage thing. But that
doesn't
that
change
to
the
me
statement.
was,
Sorry to interrupt, but like, is that
no,
what you're trying to
yeah,
say? It doesn't change what the statement says,
it's
like the responsibility.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Like it's a
Yeah.
it's a very triggering and potentially traumatic thing for a lot of women to read a statement like that. Not for me, I'm cool, but I know I always think of others. I think of my sisters, my daughters, my nieces, my, you know. So I guess there's that, and then I mean there's other ones like
Let me just
something
respond
else.
to that.
Yeah.
Let me just
Oh
respond to
yeah,
that.
go Will.
Why I put that question, because I know a lot of women did feel upset about it. I just want people to understand like the context. Like this podcast, you know, we talk about modern dating, sex, and relationships. Every single thing that we talk about is always between that dynamic. And I did make it clear in the beginning of the podcast. When we talk about these things, I'm talking about the dynamic of men and women in a relationship and dating and sex. It has nothing to do with your personal value. There's a difference. So when we talk about these topics, it has nothing to do with you as a person. I know there's a lot of good people that's watching this right now doing a lot of great things, but we're just talking about our experiences and choices that we make when it comes to dating, sex, and relationships. People that know my podcast, and I've made this clear, I do believe in strong families. I believe that we are better together than apart. And I believe as women, biologically, because you guys have controlled the access to sex. So a man cannot do anything with you sexually or even be in a relationship with you unless you give him consent, right? So because you have that responsibility, I do believe a lot of women, it is in your best interest in order to start a family to make sure that you select a very healthy, good man, right? We live in a dating culture today that casual sex is normalized. I'm totally against casual sex because I don't believe casual sex has any benefit for a woman that's looking for a strong family and for a strong partner and husband. So that's why I say it's for women, because you guys control access to sex. Please do your due diligence. Please vet out the man. Please, quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
Take your time, right? But if you choose wrong and you don't put in the due diligence, you don't put in the effort to learn about him before you give him the consent to access you physically and intimately, then there is possibility of him being a wrong guy. And if he is a wrong guy without doing your work and due diligence, then you have to take accountability for it. And the same thing for men on the flip side. I'm glad Devil brought that up. As men, we control access to relationship marriage. We are the ones that have to propose to you. But I say the same thing to men. If you marry a woman without vetting her, doing your due diligence, making sure that you can carry that responsibility of being a great father to handle the expectation what women want in a family, and you marry her and you can't handle that and she leaves, I put 100% accountability on the man. I don't blame the woman.
Yeah, we know we're gonna get bent over the barrel if we mess up.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that women understand that, and that's why that title came out. Like I said, it's nothing against your personal value as a woman. It's just I understand you control access to sex, and just do your due diligence and make sure you vet quality men because you have a better chance to create a good family.
Okay, so the thing that I want to say to you then is you're talking about flip side, but you're only talking about it in relation to marriage. What about flip side in relation to that very statement? Women are the gatekeepers to sex. Your choice, your fault. Why are you talking like women are only the ones that are that are responsible for whether sex happens or not? Men can be very forceful. And then you're talking like, like how a woman needs to choose a healthy man. Well, what about more men need to be healthy? Like you keep putting it on the woman all the time. It's like, dude, let's look at men in that very picture and ask some questions around the male part in that particular statement, which is, for number one, women are not the whole gatekeepers thing. It's I'm trying to work out why it sits so very inappropriately.
Yeah.
But in terms of the fact that that men can force themselves upon women, that's
I'm not
just
talking about.
there's
I'm
a
not talking about. I'm not talking about that. Yeah, yeah. When it
I
comes
know,
to,
but
I'm talking about consensual relationship. I'm not talking about rape. I'm not talking about sexual assault. That has nothing.
Yeah.
That's not the woman's fault, right? I just
Will,
wanna
if
make
you would have said that to a woman who got like, you know, God forbid that happened, like if you would have
Working,
included
yeah.
them in that bucket, I would not be on this podcast. If you're like, well, you're the gatekeeper,
Yeah,
you
Dina
should've-"
Jacob
that
working
would be horrible. But
rape into context. Like I said, obviously, yeah, I'm not referring to women.
but in terms of what you're saying about how women need to choose better and it's your responsibility, what about men need to be in better condition then before they go and put themselves in front of a woman to be selected?
yeah, so
I'll give you a real quick. I don't want to talk about should, would have, could have. I want to talk about what is.
I can
Okay, cool. Well,
I can
that's
go down
one of
that path a
mine.
little
Yeah.
bit. I had a rhetorical
Yeah.
question.
Because the reality is, would I want a world without war? Would I want a war without famine? Would I want people to be better, to be more kinder? Of course, but that's not the reality. That's not the real world, right? So that's the thing is, should men be better? Of course, I believe in it. Should men be better? But the reality is, there's a lot of men out there that's not quality. That's just real life in general. So
I know, because
that's why, like I
when
said,
you talk about
go ahead.
talk about quality, there's another one: women who waste their 20s being low quality women, but later want a high quality man. Like, again, stuff like that. It's just like, damn. Are you for real? What about this one? Why independent, successful women are not attractive?
One by one. Let's do it one by one.
You guys are. I'm gonna have an
Oh, you
aneurysm
want
over
it? So
here.
you want to do shoulda? You want to do shoulda, woulda, coulda now? You want to go there?
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
cool.
Yeah, let's do
Okay,
it one by one. Let's do it one by one.
Can I-
Okay.
Okay, let's do that one. Women who waste their 20s being low quality women, but later want a high quality man.
Okay, I had just a quick rhetorical question on that last point you made. It was a really good point.
All right, go ahead.
Sorry. So my question, I had two questions. The whole flipping thing. One is, let's do the bulk of the population. I'm not going to use any exceptions to the rule. Can your average woman get sex from a multitude of men if she wanted to in modern Western culture on an average given weekend night? My answer would be yes. I'm guessing you guys would agree. Can the average man get sex on a given weekend night in modern Western culture? My answer would be definitely not. Not if he's average. You know, if you have some kind of weird, unfair advantage. So I hear a lot of people, there's even people in our space saying that it's on, like, his solution, Anton, I'll just gonna say his name because I'm not misrepresenting his views. It's called Dick Discipline. And he's like, men just need to not have sex with women that they wouldn't marry. And that's his solution. And that to me is like saying that, like, I thought of the cure for HIV. Just don't have sex until marriage. Like, you have to kind of live in reality and look at, like, okay, yeah, that'd be great. Just like you said, Will, that would be nice to live in a society with no wars and know this and know that. But on average, you know, and it's not just men, it's we can get, like, this is evolutionary biology, any sexually dimorphic species with testosterone-based males are going to have more aggressive and sexual males, usually. You can look at, like, bulls, monkeys, like everything. And it's usually there's some kind of proposition, even birds building, like, nests, like there's some kind of proposition from the male of the species usually. And sexually dimorphic for the viewers means, like, for example, geese are not sexually dimorphic. The females are the same, like, weight and height as the males. So there's no alpha, and they mate for life because there's no choosing the better one, really. I mean, like, I'm probably oversimplifying, but again, the guy that was making this lecture is a lot smarter than I was, so I'm trying to dumb it down for me. But if you look at humans, we can kind of do both, but we create social constructs that try and get us to act like geese, but we always can't quite stay within that. We cheat, you know, we lie, we flirt outside of our relationship, and there's always going to be a deeper wallet, not to get too X-rated, but there's always going to be a deeper wallet, a taller dude, a bigger dick, whatever you're into. And as men, you kind of have to learn that, and just learn that, statistically, women rate about 80% of men as unattractive, and that makes them the gatekeepers of sex, combined with that men are typically the aggressors. So, and I think that rant that I just went on, it doesn't really denigrate women, although the statement might have a more distasteful undertone. But as far as like looking at the reasons for those behaviors, I don't think you're going to be able to talk men out of generally being the propositioners, or whatever the word is, the proposers. That sounds like marriage, but like in terms of sex, the person making a sexual proposition, I think will be men, as long as we have more testosterone than women. And you guys might be catching up, because I heard testosterone levels are going down by the generation for some reason. So that was my my two questions I was going to ask. Like, the average woman can easily get sex and probably will always be able to, and the average man can't, because he's just not it.
Okay. All right. I love your.
So we could move on. I saw she had probably had some great counterpoints, but I mean, this next subject we were going to move on to is just as interesting. That probably more interesting than.
How do you know about that? How do you know that about geese? So I just learned something.
I just watching that guy from Stanford, probably.
Yeah.
I think that was an example he used, but like, in any species where that, like, there's another stat you'll probably like. So with gorillas, and this is the attention getter. Okay, sorry.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
Gorillas later. Hey, remind me of the point about gorillas if you want a clip.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. All right.
All right,
thanks, Devil. Nina, yeah, go ahead. Bring up that question, that topic again.
Oh, okay. We're gonna go for another one. Okay.
20s, why women in 20s.
I totally get what you guys have. Yeah, there's the 20s one, right? Oh, you wanted me to still talk to that, or you want me to raise another title like?
No. So the last one you brought up, the last one you brought up, why do women in the 20s? Bring that up again.
Yeah, women who waste their 20s being low quality women, but later want a high quality man. So I guess it's just because it's a focus on women being when they're low quality, and then men being high quality. And to me, I don't even get it, because to talk about people like they're low quality or high quality, like I don't. That's just way over my head. I don't even understand how we can do that, because or practice that, because I don't see people as being of low or high quality. I don't understand. So I guess there's that.
Oh, go ahead, Will.
And then it's unfairly kind of talking about women again, being who wasting their 20s being low quality. I mean, I'm assuming when you say low quality, you're talking like you give me some examples of what low quality means to you.
All right, no worries. Yeah.
Sorry, relationships. Yeah.
So let me ask you. Obviously, there's low quality. There's shitty men out there. Can we agree with that? There's shitty men out there, right?
Right. Yeah, sure. Shitty men. Great. Yeah, I understand.
Obviously, there's some good men, right?
Yes, definitely.
So now you're making a comparison of quality.
Right.
Okay, so we can agree with that. All right, so
we can agree with that.
Yeah. So the thing is, like
I suppose again, the issue. Why again are we looking at just women? Like, I've got like 25 titles here, and that was just a little like the can you turn a hoe into a housewife, single mums who repeatedly keep making wrong choices, men 100% who fault. And I'm just going to go through them because I don't think we need to unpack them. I just want to point out to you, can women who choose to be sluts be revitalized again to become good wives? Like, that one for me was like, damn. Can women who choose to be sluts, first of all, I don't even use that word. That's like, whoa, be revitalized again, as if somebody else is going to revitalize her, as if she has no control over herself, to become good wives, as if she even wants to be a good wife. So there's this kind of thing. Let's look at that one. Can women who choose to be sluts be revitalized again to become good wives. Do you hear the amount of offensiveness that is in there?
No, I understand where you're coming from. You know
Yeah.
what that. So can women who become sluts be revitalized to become good wives, right? So the thing is, that's why I brought up in the beginning the differences of what men look for when it comes to a quality mate. So for most men, for most men, there's always a majority. There's always the exception. Well, if a good man, like you said, let's focus on a good man. If a good man that really wants to start up a good family, he wants to have children, he wants to have a loyal wife. He's gonna look for certain qualities in that woman. And the two biggest things he looks for is a woman that reserves her sexuality, because men want wants a woman that doesn't sleep, that's not promiscuous. That's a common fact. Men don't like promiscuity. So that's why, like you said, for men, we want a woman that doesn't sleep around, and we want a woman that doesn't have a child, so we can raise our own children. So as a woman, which is, and like I say, in the context of America where we're living here today, in a society that encourages women to go out there and casually have sex, what a lot of women finding out today is they're having multiple sexual partners, and they're having children with the men that don't give them commitment. And they do this early in their 20s, and then later on in life, they're like, okay, I'm ready for a relationship now. I want a good man to wife me up now, but she has to be accountable for all those choices she made in her past. So that's what I'm saying is it for a lot of women, of course, for a lot of women out there who have multiple sexual partners. I think Devil knows the studies more than me, but there's studies that show that for a lot of women, the more partners they have, because women, for the most women, they have to emotionally connect with the man before they have physical sex. There has to be some kind of emotional connection. A lot of times when they emotionally connect with all these random men and they constantly get disappointed by this man, it causes a lot of mental trauma, and it affects their way to bond with men. So not only physically, not only neurologically in their mind, mentally, the more sex they have, it's causing them issues to not only pair relationship with good men, but also making them unattractive for men. So that's why for a lot of men, they know is when they meet a woman that's quote unquote a slut and have made a lot of bad choices that she made. That's why a lot of them don't want to wife her up, because they know that if she comes with a lot of multiple sexual partners, there's a lot of trauma and baggage that comes with it. Some of them already have children with other men, and a lot of men don't want that responsibility. And a lot of them become very masculinized because they're very independent on their own. So they have a lot of masculine energy. So a lot of times they're not the type of wives that men look for, because what men look for is feminine women. So that's why, is it possible for those women to be revitalized? That's yeah, but statistically, and if you observe it, a lot of women can't, and that's why we have a demographic of women today, or single moms who have multiple sexual partners today in America, and they can't attract men. So that's my standpoint on that.
Okay, that's the whole thing, the whole picture intrigues me because it's totally foreign to me. It's like it's very patriarchal, incredibly patriarchal Western way of viewing things. And so I'm really fortunate to be mentored by beautiful men and women who see life in another way. And I'm really grateful for that, because this is like some little box that I just don't even want to step into, like for me, when we talk about shitty men and stuff, yeah, we've got those terms where I hear them. I don't use them. I won't say he's a shitty man or shitty men or whatever, but I know they exist. And good men, so that's the thing, your perspective of a good man and my perspective of a good man are very different. Your perspective, you're saying a good man is someone who is not a slut, and he wants to be married and have children. That's what you're saying, like, as a good man.
Definition of good man, obviously there's a lot of different definitions, but I'll make it real simple. My definition of good man, a man that takes responsibility. That's pretty much my basic standard. A man that takes responsibility for the choices that he makes for his life. If he chooses to go in a relationship, he's going to take responsibility for it. If he chooses to have a child with a woman, he's going to choose to take responsibility for it. If he's a father, he's going to take a responsibility for his children to give them a better life. So that's like I said, that's
a great definition for long-term potential.
There's a lot of good men out there. There's a lot of good men out there, but also the reverse effect. There's a lot of unresponsible men out there. So, but the thing is, if you want a responsible man, if he's a high quality man, he's gonna have higher standards of what he expects from his partner. So and so if you are not living up to the potential of being a great wife, to attract that good man, because good men have standards as well, then that's why it's gonna be hard for you. You can't make all these choices and live a life that's not quality, and then you complain about, oh, well, how come the good men are not choosing you? Because he has standards as well. Because he's quality, as he worked on himself to be quality, and I expect the same thing for women. If you're a quality woman, I don't expect nothing less from you to pick quality men. You should not go out there and pick men who are undeserving. If you are the woman living a life that's a quality woman. So, but the thing is, you cannot
yeah.
quality and then expect quality to come to you. It always requires effort and the work you have to put in.
So I consider myself then, if we're going to talk like that, if you were to ask me, where would you rate yourself, Nina K, in terms of quality? I would say I'm a high quality woman. I have, like as you already know, I have children. I have a grandson. I've been completely sober for almost 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
I am very connected to my various communities.
Mm-hmm.
I am making efforts to support the revitalization of our language and our culture. I support women. I support men. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I do not pass judgment on others. Crucial to me in terms of quality. A lot of what this stuff is passing judgment, and you're defining what you're saying. Like even the word sluts and hoes that you use in this. Like, do you feel comfortable using those terms? Could you feel comfortable saying, can you turn a hoe into a housewife? Like, man, that for me, that's just eye-watering that you even support calling a woman a hoe. That is not a good man. To me, a good man will never call a woman a hoe. And my brothers, my father, my uncles, my cousins, my friends will not call a woman a hoe, and they are good men because of that. They will not call a woman a slut, and they are good men because of that. So I'm challenging you on your perception of what is a good man. A good man is not just someone who's going to take responsibility for whatever. Take responsibility for that then, and that will make you a good man. Take responsibility for the fact that you're using that terminology, which is incredibly degrading, based on, and we all know what hoe means, we all know American hip hop, but I'm saying to you, your Indigenous brothers, you especially you, I don't know, you haven't told me your whakapapa, David, you haven't told me your genealogy. I don't know where you're from, so I can't pass comment on where you're from, but I know where Will's from. He shared with me his genealogy, as I've shared with him, which is really important for us as Indigenous people of colour. Where are we from? But I'm just saying, you guys know better than that. Deep down in your DNA, in your memory, you know better than that. So stop perpetuating this stuff around hoe and sluts and single women go on the benefits so they can be single. I mean, come on, stuff like that is just trash talk.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that.
Let me respond real quick, Devil, and then I got you. No, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, right? And this is the thing. I think what a lot of people don't really see is the intent behind it, right? So the thing is, obviously you saw some videos, but obviously I have over 1,000 videos, right? I think you probably in like less than probably like 2 or 3 videos that you probably see that I use that word, because at the end of the day, there's, like I told you before, this is a public podcast, and for me, I call it what it is. So I'm gonna when we talk about these topics, it's real, unfiltered, and raw. I'm not gonna tell all women, oh, men don't say hoes, men don't say sluts. No, that's not a representation of reality. What I'm saying to a lot of women is, if you conduct these behaviors, you're going to be perceived this way, and this is the real world. Men will perceive it this way, and men will pass judgment this way. It is what it is. So
do you not
like
see yourself as a change agent? Why are you even doing these podcasts? Just so that people can say stuff like that about women? Do you not see yourself as a change agent, as a brother of sisters? Do you not see yourself as playing a crucial part? Even if you've only got 2,000 people following you on Insta or whatever, it doesn't matter. When are you going to address these issues that are afflicting your sisters in our society, where our women went from being highly esteemed in our traditional societies, and now you are going to support them being called hoes and being referred to by other men as hoes? You've got an opportunity there in the podcast when you're like, yeah, okay, so hoe is a really common word, but I don't agree with that, and I'm no longer going to use that, and that's my commitment to you. And you could do that on your podcast. You could make a really clear, powerful statement around some of these incredibly misogynistic terms that are being used, that you do not support them. You want to support the raising up of women and the support of women, given everything that I've already explained that we are incredibly up against. I'm trying to encourage you. You can keep explaining and justifying it, but at the end of the day, if any of my brothers here in Aotearoa are going to be referring in podcasts to women as hoe, and I know you're in the American culture, but still you're a Polynesian brother, therefore your family, hoe and slut, I'm going to call them out. No worries, man. And everyone knows that about me and other women, not just 40-year-old women either, who are deemed passive aggressive or whatever. Also younger women. My 18-year-old daughter will do it too, you know, and she'll do it in her way, and she'll be like, don't you dare call a woman a hoe. So I mean, what I'm getting at is you're a good man, you have responsibility. Don't just do it in your own home, do it in these forum as well. This is a forum that you're putting out publicly, and you're getting hammered by my people here, men and women, for being misogynist. So do you want to change that? Do you want to contribute to bettering what's going on out there in the world for your sisters who you love dearly in your family? Or do you want to keep calling your sister a hoe? Because if your sister or your daughter starts sleeping with more than 2 men, are you going to call her a hoe? Genuine question. Might sound passive aggressive because I'm speaking on behalf of so many people. Are you going to call your daughter a hoe when she sleeps with more than one man?
I wanted to respond to your first point. Will made a good point, and you're responding to his point and asking a question. So I'm having to write stuff down because I have the memory of a fish. So, Will, did you want to respond to what she just said, just to keep things fresh, or do you want me to chime in and address what she said?
All right, yeah. So if my daughter is a hoe, right, and she wants to act, like, I want to make sure it's clear when I say those terms, that's a byproduct of certain behaviors, right? And also, let's not act like women don't do the same things for men, all right? As much as men have these labels on women, let's not forget that women have the same labels to men, right? So, like I said, these are realities that happen. So I'm not out here just calling everybody hoes. Whenever I use those labels, it's in the context of the discussion and the topic that we discuss based on the behaviors that people do that account for these consequences. Obviously, for a lot of women, if you tend to sleep around with random men, you're going to be perceived as hoes, not only for a lot of women, but also for men as well. And that's a reality, right? That's the world that we have to live in. So if my daughter chooses to engage in those behaviors, I will still love her, but I will let her know the reality that, hey, if you're doing these behaviors, just understand that this is how men are going to perceive you. So I'm not going to shelter her to the point to be oblivious to the fact that, oh, you know what, keep doing what you're doing, girl. None of these men don't think this way. The world's all nice. No, I won't hide her from that reality. That's not something I would agree with. I would try to teach my daughter in a better way, so she could conduct herself to be a very respectful woman, so she can attract a quality mate. But to answer your question, if she acted in those behaviors, I would let her know that this is the reality of how people can perceive you. But at the end of the day, it's her choice. As a father, I will still love her. She's my daughter. She's my blood. But I will be honest with her. I'll be like, hey, this is the consequences that you're diving into. As a father, this is what I encourage you to do. But you're your own woman. Hopefully I can raise you to a point where I don't have to have that type of discussion. But if she tends to go against what I teach her, and goes and does what she has to do, that's her choice. But I will let her know that is going to be the consequences of her choice. And whether she wants to accept it or not, that's on him. But I'm going to be honest with her. So that's how I would respond if my daughter did choose those, engage in those behaviors. But yeah. Deb, what do you want to?
Yeah, I'll address this slut question. I was gonna say that, and you guys might disagree, but we no longer shame, or at least to the same extent we used to, damaging behavior, and we move mountains for it to be accepted nowadays. Nina stated we used to hold women to higher esteem in our traditional societies, and my argument would be that that esteem and prestige was well earned, and it was earned through delayed gratification. For men and women, delayed gratification deserves respect. Usually, when it comes to, I hate to use the phrase, your sexual market value or the dating market, that manifests as financial success as a man. If you don't do a bunch of drugs, gamble, spend all your money on girls, you can build a great life and a great foundation for a family. So that delayed gratification, women can have financial success as well, but a lot of times that has less of an effect on your dating like success than it will for a man, like a broke versus a rich man that looks good versus a broke versus successful woman that's attractive. So shame's one of the few mechanisms that we have that can prevent instead of cure the consequences of failing to delay gratification and living in the moment. And in modern Western society, it just seems like the imperative is to, instead of controlling impulse and delaying gratification, we're literally like passing laws and moving mountains for that behavior to be accepted and sometimes encouraged. And this isn't just sexual behavior. This is like body positivity. I'm all for curvy women, but when she's cutting her life expectancy, 20 years off of her life expectancy, she'll never know her grandkids, and people are just lauding her as some kind of like deity or hero, then that's painful for me to see. Like I was in sports all my life. I was collegiate track team captain. My fitness was very important to me, and I would want my partner to feel the same way, like more so than the average person. So when I see that kind of behavior, especially in the Black community in America, like an 80% obesity rate, like it pains me to see. And I think the other side to that coin would be the sexual side and the ability to delay gratification when it comes to sex. There are graphs. We don't need to get into the details. I love analytics, but there is the first link I posted in the back was relating to male appraisals of female beauty. But you see that as the male's age goes up, the most beautiful woman to him is 20 to 24 years old. And as female age goes up, the most attractive mate to her is about her age, usually a few years above. And there's like a range. And obviously you're an exception to the rule, but that was like compiled data from like OkCupid, Tinder, and like millions, tens of millions of people. So not just some fringe group of people like on Tinder, but like it dips into like the body of society. But yeah, what do you, I think that was about all I had, but it was just, I wanted to make a point in regards to shaming. And I don't know if we disagree that this behavior is damaging or just that we shouldn't be shaming women for this behavior, even though it might be damaging. Like, what do we disagree on first?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I kind of think the whole shaming women for the behavior thing is something to look at, because if a woman chooses to have more than one sexual partner and does that safely, and it's with people who consent and who are single, then where do we get off judging that? And why aren't we judging the partners as well for being in a relationship with, even though it's not a formal kind of relationship, but whatever, a casual relationship with someone who's sleeping with someone else? Why do we keep looking at the woman, and why do we keep talking about it like it's such a big issue when actually she's fine, they're fine, everything's okay, leave them to it. Where do we draw the line on that person is a hoe? Where do we decide that person is a hoe? You know, I just think it's so, and again, I feel sad for you guys. I actually do. I feel a lot of compassion for you living in the States, surrounded by that culture, you know, because we're quite lucky in Aotearoa. We're very, we catch it. It comes in through music and TikTok and things like that. But essentially, it's not something we fully subscribe to. We're pretty, like, if someone's going to walk into any space here and go, ho, you know, it's going to be like, whoa, dude, nah, you know, it's kind of, that's in my experience anyway. So I feel for you that this is a normal part of your language. And that's why and many of the other things that you guys talk about, I feel for you. And it makes me sad that this is where we're at as a society, where we actually speak like this about others. Yeah.
Well, real
It
quick,
really does.
we can shout out to Fatty. Fatty, thank you for the super chat donation. Can men have standards without being called names? Real quick, I want to ask you a question, Nina. Do you believe in family, in strong families, and people getting married together and staying together forever?
Well, you know what, like I did, because my grandparents, especially my father's parents, were like that. All up, she birthed 18 children, you know, large extended family. So initially, as a child, I thought that was what it was all about. And then as I got older, I what's the word? I wanted that. It was what I aspired towards. And then I met the father. I had met the father of my children. We had 3 children. We were engaged. And to me, it was, we must get married no matter what. We're going to do like what Nana and Granddad did. We're going to stay together no matter what. We're going to have, you know, just till death do we part. We're going to get married, etc., etc. But then I realized, actually, because it was so toxic and dysfunctional, that really was just not appropriate. You know, like it was destroying. Not only was it creating terrible role modeling for the children, but it was also destroying all of our spirits, let alone the other things, physicality stuff that went on. And then I realized that Nana and Granddad had that as well. There was a lot of toxic stuff that occurred in their relationship. So it made me start to think about, actually, if I stay in this, I'm gonna just die completely miserable, because we've tried everything. We've tried everything to make it work. And getting married, going to the chapel and putting rings and exchanging and going through that whole Western, that whole Western template of marrying, that whole Christian kind of thing, that's not going to solve the problems that we have. It doesn't matter. If anything, it's just going to push them more into the darkness of the bedroom. And so I decided I don't want to live like that. I want to be free of violence, free of toxicity, free of fear, free of power and control. And I want to live in my own mana, my own integrity as a human. And then maybe one day I might meet somebody, but that is not a priority to me. The priority is taking care of my children, being a good, and my grandson. So to answer your question, no, I do not aspire to marriage at all. The role models I've had in my own family have not, mum and dad separated as well. And saying that, I have friends now who, like my brother just got married last weekend. He married his fiance. They have a child each from a different relationship. It was beautiful union. It's honorable. It's there's so much love there, and they exude it way beyond just each other. And so I support their marriage. I support marriages where people are happy and they love each other. I do not
Yeah.
support marriages where there's power and control issues.
No, of course.
And often you find that though, because of this whole patriarchal construct that we're living in, is that there's so much power and control in marriages, and it's incredibly it's awful for a lot of women. A lot of women are trapped in marriage, and so I don't. And because of that, because of learning all of that, I'm not just going to say, yeah, marriage is amazing. Yeah, I want to get married. No, definitely not.
No,
I understand that for you. Yeah.
No, obviously, I know you had a bad experience, and didn't work out. But I'm just saying is like, I'm saying is, do you believe in the idea of a healthy marriage, two couples that are healthy, that are happy, raising good children, and making sure the children are raised in a good, stable environment? Like, do you believe in that idea?
I believe in healthy relationship.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
believe in the whole Western Christian marriage thing. I don't believe that's for everybody and that everybody should do that. And
yeah. I'm just talking about
it wasn't. Can I just be clear? It wasn't an awful experience, and I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I learned so much from that 16 years of my life with the father of my children, and I will always love him, and I always speak to him lovingly too. He has now gotten married and had 3 more children. But he taught me a lot. He taught me so much, and he still teaches me to this very day. So despite that it was incredibly toxic and all that kind of stuff, power and control stuff, I'm just glad I got out of it, and that we can then move on, and that I have respect for him and his marriage. Like, I will always hold that up. But I do not believe in marriage. I don't believe in what it currently is in that whole Western sense. I believe in relationships. I believe in caring for children, and I believe children are priority.
I'm not when I say marriage, I don't mean in the Western definition of I'm just saying marriage is like two people staying together in a relationship for the purpose of building a family. I'm not talking about like the friend coming in. And I'm just talking about.
So, but I think it's all. I feel like it's also a bit unrealistic to think that you can be with that person forever and never actually. I think that I've come to a place where I think that maybe some people are only supposed to be together for the purposes of having children together and then move on, like we finally worked out to do, and that's okay, and that's healthy as well. I don't think that we need to, if it's not resonating anymore for both parties, then we should be able to separate and go our ways, which is non-conventional, I know, but I just think that being forced, you only have one life. I would love to think that there is someone that I will meet one day and we are just so incredibly happy, and we find this love for each other where we want to take it to the grave. I mean, that's beautiful concept, but I haven't found that, and so instead I enjoy being free, because then I can love anybody and everybody without restriction. I notice that my friends who are in relationships are very restricted at times in their ability to socially engage, and it's because of their relationships, and I respect that. I think they're allowed to be like that. But for me, I'm one of those people right now in my life. I'm not saying I'll always be like that, but I'm one of those people who needs to be free, because I have a purpose, and I know what that purpose is, and I have a lot of love that I want to share, with a lot of people, and I cannot do that if I'm in a relationship, to be honest.
So you said your parents they separated early in your life. Did that have a big impact on you as a child when seeing your parents separate?
Yeah, like I was 12, and it was pretty emotional. Definitely, I felt a lot of it was definitely it was really tough for us children but they were so amicable about it. And the thing is that they eventually came back together in a really beautiful friendship. And that's what we learned the most of, because then when we lost our father, sadly, like just over a year ago. And when he passed, mum was right there. You know, he didn't go on to another relationship. Well, they kind of did, but then when he passed, they were both single, and so she was able to be with him in those last days, and it was really beautiful to see that love still existed despite the fact that they had separated. And so, yeah, I love that. I love that love, and that love didn't have to sit in this suffocating thing that they both couldn't handle anymore, where they got to the point where they weren't even communicating with each other, you know? And some of us know that so well when you're in a relationship and you actually get to a point where you're just like, you're not even talking to each other, man. And that's unhealthy, right?
And a quick question: the Māori culture, I don't know. I wanted to ask: does the Māori culture, is it about families staying together forever, or does the Māori culture encourage people to be independent and find their own purpose?
Yeah, well, it depends. Depends who you talk to. I mean, we're tribal people, right? So when you talk about Māori culture, you can't really say it's a blanket thing, because especially these days, I feel like
the majority of obviously there's some that may be like minority, but the majority is the majority of Maori's culture. Is it about building strong families to stay together forever, or is it about being separate and doing their own thing?
Well, the thing is that building strong families is ideal, and staying together. I mean, you can't, when you're a family, you can't avoid each other anyway, you know? You are together, you're bound together for life. So I don't feel like there's like a real common general thing around that these days. I feel like we're quite open, Māori people. We're quite open. So it kind of, all sorts happens, you know. But I think traditionally we were tribal people. So yeah, we really huddled together, and we're very much like that.
Because my take, you know, I'm Tongan, so like in my Tongan culture, it's all about family traditionally. You know, all about family. The concept of like being independent and seeking your own purpose. What I noticed, that's more of a Western thing. But the Pacific Islander, but I'm talking about Tongan because I am Tongan. The traditional Tongan culture is about building strong families and making sure they stay together forever. And the reason why I brought that up, because I do believe the foundation of any society, of any culture or tribe is the family. Right? You keep that. If you have strong families between the man and the woman, they are committed to each other in a healthy way. They love each other. They have duty and obligation and responsibility to each other. We produce better quality children, because statistically there are studies that show that, you know, children that come from single parent households, they're more prone to like emotional issues, trauma, because it's very traumatic for a child to see their parents separate. And that's why you tend to see.
I agree with you that we are.
I'm talking about majority. For kids who come from a stable household, from two parents that are in a stable relationship forever, they tend to do better than kids who come from a home that was separated. So the reason why I brought that point, because you said that, women out there that choosing to go out there and sleep around, which is their choice. That's fine if that's their choice. But that choices they're making, is that conducive for them to finding good quality partners in the marriage, or does it help them? Like to tell women, hey, your choice as a woman, I'm not going to judge you for your choices, but does that help women attract good men and attract good marriages? Because the way I see it is, if you choose to go that route, you're probably not going to end up finding a good man. You're probably not going to end up being in a good marriage. But the women that choose to, you know what, I'm going to just focus on finding one good man. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to be very reserved, very conservative, and try to find that one good guy to find a quality man. So the thing is, I understand where your real point, like, for women, don't call them hoes, don't call them sluts. Like I said, that's just a byproduct of society of how they labeled them. But I do see an issue with their behavior, because women who tend to go that route, they don't end up attracting good men and families. So that's why that's why I don't agree with that. It's not because of the choices, because I know that if they choose to go that route, it doesn't help them build good families. And like I said, good families is the foundation of any good society, because it's going to build a healthy generation of kids. But we choosing telling men and women to go separate and do our own thing and not thinking about the consequences of the future of attracting a good family. And that's why we have a lot of issues with kids today coming from broken homes. So
Well, it's
that's
kind
just
of
the way I
what
see it.
came. I totally hear what you're saying, Will, but I think it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg, you know? Because again, it's hard to find families who are not dysfunctional these days. You know what I'm saying? There's so many different layers. If it's not addiction, or some level of abuse, or poverty, or there's so many education issues. There's just stacks of issues within our large traditional family constructs of when we all kind of live in each other's pockets as an extended family. And the thing is that you can argue the point, because number one, if a woman doesn't want to find a good man, that's her choice, and that's okay. And some women go through phases where that's not what they want to do, or how they go about doing it is actually up to them, because that whole hoe thing of sleeping with different men may lead them to a good man. You are making an assumption there that it won't. But I actually know, I know couples who met through Tinder. I know heaps of them. And that's after sleeping with men sleeping with a few women sleeping with a few men. So it can happen. So I think we just got to get out of this blinder kind of
Do
thing.
those relationships last long? Even if they do find
the ones I'm thinking of are still together. I'm thinking of like 3 or 4 different couples I know who are still together, and they absolutely in love. One of them's getting married. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like this whole, I think we've got to stop looking at this whole, well, not stop, because you can look at whatever you want, but the whole hoe thing, it's like, someone could call me a hoe if they wanted to, because I was on Tinder, right? I would take great offense to that, because I know why I'm on there. I was on there intentionally to teach, and my profile, my bio was very clear about that, to connect with younger men in a certain way where we're exchanging advice and support of each other. And because of that, some beautiful things happen, And so I take offense to being referred to as a hoe, because don't judge me on what I was doing. You have no idea what my intention was. If I wanted to go on there and find a good man, I possibly could have, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to do that. I mean, I don't want to get married. I'm on there because I know my purpose in life. I'm a sober woman. I've been sober for 21 years. It's pretty clear for me what my purpose is. And my purpose is about my Indigenous brothers and sisters, first and foremost, and children, nieces, nephews, and uplifting them. And if marriage is not the institution, a Western marriage is not the institution, it's unrealistic to think that marriage is going to solve all the problems these days, because we have extended families. We still live in extended families, and there are so many issues that marriage, especially a marriage that is not healthy, is not going to solve those problems at all. It's going to contribute to those problems.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Devil.
I had a question on that. So, and again, like, I date women, so I don't, I haven't really thought much about if this is the case for men. But would you say that there's generally, I can only speak for the West because that's what I've grown up in. Have we seen women less likely to sacrifice happiness for duty than prior generations? And I'm talking about long-term relationships and marriage, especially when there's kids. Because Nina kind of pulled me from the view I grew up with of after the kids are grown and out of the house, does it really matter whether you stay together or not? Yeah, it might hurt your kids hearing your parents broke up, but you're not damaging their development as much. A lot of times you'll see the woman give up her career, and that's just a classical example of the sacrifice that is made to the duty of having a family and those responsibilities. A lot of times the husband will go from working 40 to 55 hours a week. I saw that. I was an econ major, so labor economics, that was one of the first things you see no matter what data set you study, is that, when marriage happens, the female hours per week go down and the male hours per week go up. And So could that be why marriage is less compatible with our generation? Is like just the and I'm not saying it's a bad thing because that came with more freedom, but there are a lot of secondary effects of it, and that's what I'm hearing a lot. And like the stories you're telling is like less sacrifice of happiness for duty.
It's went out. I don't know if you can still hear me.
Oh,
Yeah, we hear
you're
you.
good. You're good.
Oh, good. I really think so, man. I think that heard a bit like.
Oh, you're cutting out a little.
Oh,
It's kind of in and out.
can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, we're good now.
Oh, that's good. I honestly have so much love and respect for my friends and family who choose to get married, because I think it's incredibly brave. You know, in this day and age, it really is. Like, big ups, man, especially if you can make it work. And that's the commitment I make to my friends, whether they're in a marriage or whether it's a relationship. Like, I'm often the third wheel, you know, because I'm that person that will honor the woman in the couple and the man, you know, but first and foremost the woman, because I'm all about uplifting our women, you know, because we need that. We need our help uplifting. And so for me as a single person, that's the least I can do, is support my friends and family who are in couples, whether it's who are in relationships, whether it's marriage or whether it's, you know, not marriage. But I honestly do think it's so brave whenever one of our friends or family say we're going to get married. It's just like, wow, you guys are amazing. Yeah. You know, like it's like a real treasure of the past, I feel like, almost. Like, I know it's happening and stuff, but it doesn't happen very often. It's enough to make whole communities go, wow, that's incredible. Yeah. You guys are getting married. And it's something to really honor, I think, for all of us, because there's so much trauma for our people, you know, that the thought of marriage is something that's actually very far, far away for a lot of us who have come through so much pain, you know. And even if it was something that we really, really wanted at some stage in our life, we had to let it go, because otherwise we were going to die in a marriage. And that's the sad reality, right? And so as much as, you know, and that's why I find it hard to kind of talk like this sometimes about women and stuff, because women are more predominantly victims in relationships, massively so. Like, and here in Aotearoa, we have the highest domestic violence statistics in the civilized world, and we're only a small country. So, you know, that's the reality of it here for me and my sisters and aunties and cousins and daughters and stuff and nieces. And so that's why I am quite staunch about all of this, because it disturbs me, because I can see how misogynistic attitudes belong in that pool of domestic violence. That's where it's bred, you know, that those kind of behaviors breed it. And so yeah, it's like, it is part of my purpose, I guess, is to kind of talk about that stuff. But I really respect how you talk about marriage, and I wish that was a reality for more of us, but it really isn't. It's just sadly.
I want to ask
it's just respecting the differences.
Nina, I want to ask you, do you appreciate like direct honesty?
Do I appreciate it?
Direct with you and just being honest with you and not gonna sugarcoat the truth from you. Like, they're just gonna be honest. Do you appreciate that?
Oh, with men, you mean?
I don't know, with men, just people in general. Like, just people that are just very direct. They don't sugarcoat anything. They're just gonna be real upfront with you. You're always gonna get the truth from them.
Well, sometimes I do. It depends how it's presented. You know, like any of us, we can be very strong on one hand, and then in the same vein, we can be incredibly fragile because of that. You know, so I'm one of those people who's really conscious that I walk those polar opposites constantly. I'm a very much like that in terms of my emotions. So there's been times where people have come at me with real direct honesty, and I'm just like, yeah. If I've set myself up, or if someone set me up,
I take it really well. But there's been other times where people have come at me just like, and I'm like, no, it kills me, it hurts.
I mean,
so are you setting me up?
We all have that friend, right? You have that friend that's always honest with you. That when you start making bad decisions in real life, they're gonna be the one to tell you what you need to hear, and because out of intent, because they love you, they tell you the truth. So we all have that one friend, right? That's gonna be always gonna be honest with us. So like, do you appreciate that?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. Yeah.
Okay. All right, because I do understand where you're coming from, right? And like I said, I do understand for a lot of women that might see this podcast and think we're misogynistic, which I do 100% believe. If you watch the content, understand my intent, that is not the case. But I am aware of it, and I do care how I am perceived as a social media content creator and what I'm trying to do with the community. So I do want to be able to address that. But you said that you want to uplift women. Cool. I'm on the same page with that. Let's uplift women, right? But this is the thing. Is it possible to uplift women who are making bad choices with their life without being directly honest with them and holding them accountable?
Yeah.
That's the issue. I think with a lot of women who watch this podcast is because we're very direct, very blunt. We call it how it is. But the thing is, if you're not open for constructive criticism, and for me, I'm always open to it. That's why my podcast is public. That's why I allowed you to come in. I was like, hey, please challenge me, criticize me. Let's have this conversation because I'm open to it, right?
Yeah.
And I do understand there's a lot of women out there who they need that upliftment, but because they're not open to be criticized for their behaviors, and because if they see this type of message or this type of content, they'll be like, you know what, he's misogynistic. Even though what I'm telling them, please take accountability for your choices and find good quality men and build strong families. There's statistically, and you tend to do better in those situations.
Yeah.
So my question to you is how can we uplift women if we can't be directly honest and blunt with them and be able to hold them accountable?
It's you're in a tricky position because you're men and you're trying to tell women how to do things. It's like if a cat tries to tell a dog how to do something, like, get out of here, you don't know. So it's kind of there's a bit of that, and that's what when you're doing the criticism stuff. I mean, that's why it probably kind of hurts, but also it doesn't get heard. Whereas, say for someone like me, like say for me, I have a bit of an issue with, say, like OnlyFans, despite the fact, and probably because of the fact that I worked in the sex industry, and now these days I'm really clear that I do not promote the sex industry. You might see on my page I've got little pole dancing videos. That's about shadow work and reconnecting with who I was and who I was not allowed to be for 16 years in my life in terms of being a dancer. So I kind of promote that because but the thing is, there's aspects like the sex industry itself, I'm not down with it. And so I can talk about it because I've been there. And people can challenge me if they want, but I've been there, I've lived it, I have the experience, I am qualified to speak about it, Now the thing with with you guys, I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to challenge behaviors that you're really focusing and targeting on women. But
it's on men as well. I just want to make it clear, like, we do the same thing with men. I have a podcast that
I have seen some of those.
Go in on men.
Yeah.
The same way. So I have to make sure a lot of women don't see that. But I give the same account of accountability on men. Like, we need to be better men.
Yeah, I have seen that too, bro. I'm sorry I called you bro. I have seen that. I've seen that.
I understand.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just think that maybe you can ask these questions to women as well. Like when you're in the podcast, and you can ask women, how can I uplift you as a male who understands everything that you're up against, like historically, culturally, society-wise, whatever, all that stuff. How can I uplift you? Because at the end of the day, the behavior is a byproduct of the trauma of colonization, right? We call it colonization. We talk about it all the time here. We've been colonized. We're trying to decolonize. That's what we're doing here in Aotearoa as Māori. The majority of us are trying to decolonize. And so part of that is understanding we have to always look at how our behaviors are byproducts of colonization. So if you can acknowledge that to women and say, get them to a place where they can understand what their behavior is, like, you know, if they can come to it themselves is ideal through these discussions around why do you think women sleep with lots of men? You know, it's because of the pressure of, you know, social media and Tinder and whatever else, you know, and to feel good about yourself and blah blah and all these Western things, which are a product of colonization and what happened to us as people. Because don't forget, it's not that long ago that we were all colonized and went through the trauma that we all went through. Be it African people, be it Polynesian people, we all suffered a very similar trauma. Now, if you remember that and you talk about that and you educate women about that, that is where they become empowered, because that's what we used to do at the Abuse Intervention Centre, was show them examples of, like in the 1980s, advertisements in local newspapers that have a man, like a woman on the ground as if she's like a rug, you know, like a tiger mat, but it's a woman's head, and the man's got his foot on it going, get up and make me dinner or whatever, you know, and stuff like these are actual things that used to exist in our media as normal. And when a woman sees stuff like that, she starts to understand, whoa, that's a symbol of the society that I was born into. And that's a white man thing. It's a white person thing, you know. And so what I'm trying to say is it's the education side is how you can, is helping women, supporting women to explore the behaviors and come to an understanding, a deeper understanding of why we even do this stuff is a way that you can that's one way to uplift them. Definitely.
All right, no worries. Hey, Nina, I have a guest on the public chat. He said, I'm a male guest. I'm a resident of Aotearoa. I'm sorry if I can't say that. I want to get on and just have a conversation with Nina, but he doesn't want you to make you uncomfortable because there's 3 guys on here. He wanted to ask if it's okay with you to jump on it because he wants to.
I'm cool, man, but I'm mindful of your time. Like, haven't we gone right over?
I'm allowed him to come in and he can just share his final thoughts with you. Is that okay with you? Because I want to make sure you're comfortable.
I'm cool with it. Are you all right with it, David?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a guest too, so I'll always welcome a fellow guest.
I don't want the women watching this podcast. Oh, you're trying to gang up on her. I want to just be able to. We're not. Okay?
It's okay. You'll just probably see my passive aggressive come out a lot more if it happens.
All right. Okay, Daniela, I'm gonna let you come on.
Yeah, kia ora Nina. Aroha and mana to you, and also Will and David. Yeah, so I had to ask Will, and sorry, my camera's not on, having some difficulties there. I had to ask Will to come on because I am of Tongan descent. So I migrated to Aotearoa in 2008. So I've been here ever since. So a big part of the Māori culture has been something that I've been surrounded in and been lucky to have relationship with tangata whenua and been around that environment. And, you know, the discussions that you guys are having tonight and pretty much predominantly what the podcast is all about. And let me just say, I'm a regular here. You probably can find me in majority of those in those previous podcasts that you've quoted. And the big reason why I'm a big part of this is not just because it's triggering to women or it's deemed as misogyny or whatnot, but it's because I am in the construction sector here, and I have been for the last 10 years. And it comes from a place where male suicide, male mental health, domestic violence, men in prison coming out looking for second chance, gang violence has been a part of what I've had to deal with in the past. And what I found out in that experience is that predominantly these men come from broken homes. Now we can debate the whole way that we approach the podcast in general, but I think the end goal of me personally being part of this podcast is that we want to improve men in general. And we talk about masculinity in the sense that even if we view it in the lens of westernized world or indigenous, masculinity for us, and if we dial it back to indigenous, is protect and provide. It's not to oppress. We provide protection. We provide mana through the way we provide for, wahine in our family in that sense. And that's what we preach. I mean, words aside of how we label certain things, but what's most important for me and my part of this podcast is, in order for a label to be made, there has to be a behavior. So let's focus on the behavior before we try and even change the label, because we acknowledge that the behavior is damaging. And oftentimes we can refer back to colonization as a big driving force of that. But also at the same time, one of the biggest questions that I ask the men on, on the construction site, we can blame colonizations, we can blame the government, we can blame the system. But at the end of the day, are we also saying that we are hands-off, influenced by default by these things, or do we claim back mana as we believe in it and take on the responsibility to be accountable? Okay, we've been exposed to some very damaging past, and I know the history of Māori wahine in Aotearoa has been absolutely disgusting. Domestic violence has been a big thing. Gang violence, especially women forced into relationship through gangs, has been absolutely one of the most disgusting things that we see here in Aotearoa. But in saying that, we're still contributing to it by putting our hands up and blaming everything else other than our own participation in the system that we so claim is damaging to us. And a big part of, and I know I don't speak on this much on the podcast, a big part of my, my whakapapa is indigenous, and those are claimed by mana and wa in the Tongan way that we look at things. And wa is just space, mana is the energy that we share. And I don't predominantly talk about that in the podcast because I know a lot of people that are watching and listening will probably don't get the concept. So we try and come from a logical standpoint. But hey, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. But yeah, I wanted to jump on and just chime in. I know New Zealand's going through a big reform, especially with young adults chiming into decolonization and indigenous right. But the way that I see it, it's also damaging in the sense that we're not acknowledging that we are actively partaking. Hey, baby. All right, Daddy's in a podcast. But yeah, I wanted to add that because I think we often claim that, oh, I'm indigenous, you have to understand me. But at the same time, we also need to educate people who are ignorant. That to me is my responsibility as an indigenous Tongan man. I need to educate you because if you haven't lived the experience that I have lived, then how are you ever going to understand it? It's just as simple as if you've never tasted what mango is, how can I explain it to you in a way that you can understand? So, yeah, part of my 2 cents in jumping on, and yeah, respect that you've come on the platform. I know our people from here are very sort of standoffish when it comes to these discussions, but that's a big part of why I love talking about this, and it's a big part of my strategy in mental health. And one of my biggest project is to team up with Māori health provider here in New Zealand in the next couple of months, because mental health in its current state is just atrocious, and the current approach is, I don't think it's going to help at all. So yeah, my 2 cents.
Kia ora.
All right. Thank you, Daniela.
Can I just respond a little bit to that?
Go ahead.
Tēnā koe, Daniela. Tēnā koe moto haramai. It's really lovely to hear from you. It's a nice little surprise to hear someone from here, from home. And I totally hear what you're saying, and I acknowledge you for your mahi that you're doing. It's really important. And just to respond to what you're saying about colonization and blaming. That's not what I'm saying at all. I just want to be really clear that it's about educating, because a lot of our people, our whānau, our communities, our families don't realize why they're in the position that they're in, or, you know, even I being sober as well, I talk about it even with alcohol use, which is so common. Everyone's drinking, you know, but let alone methamphetamine and all the other things. But the thing that saved me 21 years ago, when I was an addict and a stripper, the thing that made me go, wow, wake up and drop everything, was an understanding of who I could actually be based on stories about who my ancestors were. So it was connection, it was learning about myself, and then learning that about alcohol, drugs, and the sex industry actually didn't belong to me, to who I really am. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm getting at, in terms of decolonization, which to be honest, I don't really even like to use those words, but I thought I'd put it in there because these brothers may not have heard that word, but we all know here that we tend to use it quite a bit in Aotearoa, colonization, decolonization. With these behaviors, I agree, focusing on the behaviors, in order for us to even understand why we're practicing them, we have to look at where it's come from. The fact that alcohol is normalized, and, you know, we just do it so blindly, so unconsciously, so willingly, but we have huge problems. Alcohol abuse, alcohol leads to abuse, alcohol leads to addiction, alcohol leads to so many other things, domestic violence, blah, blah, blah. When we can understand that actually that's quite a recent reality in the scope of our historical evolution in this country. Alcohol hasn't been here that long, but we took to it so quickly and willingly, then that helps us to find our own self-determination, you know? So that's what I'm getting at, is if we can look broader than just this sort of Western construct that we keep looking at around dating, and look at the bigger, broader issues of why is a woman a hoe? You know, sure, use the word hoe if that's what you got to use, but let's look at the behavior then. You know, instead of just kind of going, yeah, there's so many hoes out there. Well, why? And the thing is, on the show, you've got women of color. That's all I've seen. Beautiful women of color, you know? It's like, why? Explore it, unpack it. Why are women hoes, if that's the word that everyone relates to over there? Why are women sluts? Why? Why is this happening? And then can we unpack it and then look at, well, so what could be a way of changing those behaviors? It's not by telling her she's a hoe and it's bad. That's not going to change the behavior, but helping her to come to an understanding of why she's even perpetuating that stuff is going to help her on her own journey of self-knowledge. And then before you know it, she drops the behavior, she starts doing something else really positive and healthy. Next minute, she finds herself a good man and she's a good woman, and they get married and everyone lives happily ever after. You know what I'm saying? It's like we got to start looking at those behaviors and the trauma and unpacking it. That's how we help each other.
Yeah.
It's not about blaming the white man and blaming the government. It's not about that. It's about acknowledging the truth and the facts of history, because some of us don't even know those. We don't even know why we're in the situations that we're in. It's incredibly empowering when you realize why you do the behavior you do. When like me, falling into the sex industry, like, damn, you know, like I was an intelligent young woman, achieving really well at college, everything. And then I had a relationship that went bad. I was depressed. So one of my girlfriends said, hey, why don't you come up here? I've got a job for you. All you got to do is be in a room, dance around, take your clothes off slowly, you know? And I was like, I got nothing else. I'm broken. I'm a young Māori woman who left school before I got my leavers thing, I don't know what else to do. No one else is off. I can't find work. I've been washing dishes, but that's it, you know. And so that's not doesn't define who I am though. Just my behavior back then should not define who I am today. But if I was still doing that stuff today, then yeah, help me unpack it, man. You know, the behavior to me is like a call for help. Addiction is like a call for help. Sorry, I'm ranting, but yeah.
No, that's valid. I wanted to agree and just say that one, I think, point of contention I see nowadays is that men and women's solution to the behavior that we both agree can be harmful and or cry out for help is that we're kind of at odds with each other, you know? Like I see a push for the removal of shame for that behavior, and shame can go too far in many cultures, and it can be physical abuse. It can be, and it can manifest like people can hold it down for too long, then it explodes into, you know, God knows what, or it can be just the slow erosion of a woman's like, you know, confidence and mental health because you don't talk to her. It's more abuse. Like there are the right ways and the wrong ways, and we'll all have our own versions of that and how to address those issues. And some people just manifest as calling, you know, a woman who loves and trusts them a hoe and just, you know, breaking her mentally. So I think I agree, and I think that's interesting. Is we agree that the behavior is like a call for help or it can be harmful. We all have a different line as to where that shame should be. Like as a guy, I see women saying that a lot that I would agree with is wrong and misogynistic, like certain kinds of male-female abuse, harassment, stuff like that. But one of the last points I wanted to make was how my grandparents met. My grandma's a Lopez, full-blooded Mexican. My grandpa was a blue-eyed mailman, European. And I don't see that many ways today. Oh, and they married at 19. My mom was the last of their 9 kids. And my grandma actually just passed away this last August after 65 years of marriage, I think. So it's like a traditional but beautiful relationship. And I don't see a way today that a mailman could end up marrying one of the people he delivers to without risking his entire career in the social and political environment we live in, you know? So there are all these families that could have happened. My mom and all 9 of her siblings and all, oh man, it was like counting her grandkids and great grandkids, there's like 140. And we would have all never happened if my grandpa would have lived in 2022 and been like, yeah, no, that's sketchy. I don't want to risk my job. She's beautiful though. I'd like to get to know her, you know? So like, what kind of environment are we really creating? I mean, I'm not saying men should have the freedom to harass women, but like everyone has their own line as to what's okay and what's not. We all agree that the terrible stuff's not okay. But then I hear things like, you know, new terms like the male gaze. Like, do I want my sons to think that them looking at other girls that are 7, you know, when they first hear these terms is damaging them? What effect is that going to have on my sons eventually? And I don't have any kids yet, but like, you know, there's just all these reservations I have about all these modern changes that are being made. And I just like see beautiful relationships like the one my grandparents had as almost a lot less likely and possible nowadays. So that was the last point I was going to make. Danielle, you had a lot of beautiful points. When it comes to colonization, I'm not as well read on it. So, you know, I have the whole God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason when it comes to things like that I'm not as in tune with. I think it might be because I'm just kind of a mutt. My dad's full black and I got my grandma's Mexican, European. So I have a lot to learn when it comes to my past. But
no worries.
Yeah,
no worries. No worries. Thank you so much. And Nina,
Yep.
I totally agree with you. I do believe that we should be able to be understanding and to get to know more to know people's stories, because you know we don't want to be too extreme and push people too far, right? So I totally understand that, but at the same time, I do believe that blame and shame is necessary so people understand as a society that things that we not going to accept, that's not beneficial, like the bad behaviors of you know, abuse when the men abusing their women. every single man should be like, no, that's shameful, and we're not going to tolerate that. But the thing is, it's just very hard in today's society that we can't shame people no more. We can't say, hey, this is not good, because it doesn't help us become better as a family, as a society, because we remove that aspect. So that's the challenge today. Is I understand people go through their issues with their life. I understand that's life, but how do we really know what we're doing is not beneficial for your own life if we're not willing as a society to say, hey, that's not good, right? Because I grew up in a time when our parents were like very clear. My dad taught me this is shameful as act as a man. If you're gonna have sex with a woman, she has a child, you better handle that responsibility as a man. He told me that directly. You handle responsibility, and that's shameful for a man. And I live by that. I don't want to be. I want to be. If I do have sex with a woman, I'm gonna make sure I put myself in a position. I'm gonna be responsible for her, because that my dad told me that was a shameful act, and he taught me that way. But I do also understand is I talk to a lot of men also who don't think it's shameful. You just run around and and plant seeds in everybody, right? But that's just that's one of the difficult things today to navigate these type of conversations. Is when we have the discussions, because we remove the aspect of shame and blaming and criticism. It's just very hard for people to look within themselves. You know what? I understand we all went through, but look at the behavior. I think that's what Daniela said. Like, let's focus on the behavior. At some point, regardless of where you came from in your life, at some point you have to take accountability for your choices. At some point, and you can't blame everybody. You can't blame this. At the end of the day, we all have issues. I have my issues as well, but I'm not gonna sit here and blame the world or other people for my situation. I'm just gonna be like, you know what? It's my fault. You know what? There's a reason why people are telling me I'm a bad person. There's a reason why people are shaming me. And you know what? It's time to look within myself and like, you know what? I gotta make my changes. And I think there's a necessary part of that in society. I don't think we should remove it completely. And I think that's what the hardest thing is. If we bring that up, immediately a lot of women will be like, "Oh, you're misogynistic. You hate women." When I'm just like, I'm trying to focus on it, but yeah. But I'm so glad you came on here.
Sorry, Bill. Just want to add two things. In no way, in all my participation in the podcast, in no way we're justifying men's behavior when they become absolutely disgusting men, right? So we don't condone that at all. And the second thing, the reason why we predominantly speak to women, because there's a power that women have that no man can ever influence ever, and that's the power on culture. If you look at who influences culture, it's always women. It's always mothers. The teachings of mothers is always what carries the next generations and the behavior of the next generations forward. Absence of father in the relationship affects the mother and the way that she raises her children, and then therefore influence the next generation. So when I think the biggest gripe for a lot of women looking on the podcast is, why are you focusing on women? Don't you want to speak to the men? Men are actively partaking. We agree, but men ultimately don't control culture, in the sense that predominantly men don't get to spend time with, children, and it's the women who have that power. So I guess if it's a better approach to how we speak to women in general, I think we can look at that and redefine how we do. But at the same time, man, we also have to acknowledge that there's a new breed of women nowadays who look down on motherhood, who look down on the energy that a woman brings to the table and brings to a home. Like, I'm married with 2 beautiful children, and the way I look at my wife, it's like, damn, I could not bear your life for a single minute. And that's powerful to me. But we now have women who are preaching, oh, you're degrading us if you, we don't accept motherhood. We don't accept having children as if it's something to look down on. And that, to me, it's why sometimes I get the strong opinion that I have. It's like, no, if you ever had any children and is genuinely in love with the man that you're with, you would understand just how powerful you are as a woman, and no man can take that away from you, regardless. And that's the power that me personally, I want to see more women preaching about, rather than, oh, you go do your thing, and whenever you're ready, you're ready. It's like, man, acknowledge the mothers that brought us into this world, because those behaviors that they had is vastly different from what young women are displaying now, and that's, I think, for me is the reason why I agree with Will and David and the way that we approach most things. But again, you being part is also giving me personally ways of looking at how I, reformulate the way that I speak and how I approach different things in general.
Appreciate that.
I told Nina, don't look at my first videos because it's terrible. The way I communicated, I just started off the podcast. I had no idea how to talk to people, talk to a camera. Do not look at my first couple videos. It is not a good representation of my communication skills. But we have come to the end of the podcast. Nina, thank you so much. Much respect to you to be on here and come on here and having an open discussion with us. And I just want to ask you real quick, what's your final thoughts on tonight's podcast? And do you still see me as misogynistic? And after having this conversation, if you do, that's okay. That's okay. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm open for that. But based on my conversation with you, thank you so much for being on here, because it takes a very strong, confident woman to be on here and have this type of discussions. And I can resonate that with you. And I got a lot of respect for you for doing what you did today, even though a lot of women told you not to, but you decided to come on here to have this open discussion. I think it's much needed in this on this podcast. But yeah, what's your final takes? And how can people find you? Because I want people to find you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been, it's been a bit of a journey with you guys, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you inviting me in. It's ironic that I've ended up being the only wahine that's ended up in here, because a part of me kind of was like, I got lots to say. I let you know from the start, and that was before my friends started saying, hey, don't go on there, it's misogynistic. It was actually one of my brothers, he's from Rarotonga, that kind of got me the most. He was the one who said to me, sis, you're better than that, He said, you shouldn't go on there, you're better than that. He said that to me, right? And that kind of hit me, because and there's actually been a few men who've said that. So but then I stopped and thought about it, and I thought, you know what? These are the conversations though, and I don't get to have these conversations anywhere, but they're so important. And if we can just get through this together, then I feel like there's going to be a little bit of change, even if it's just amongst ourselves, where I've learned things from you guys that I can take away that will enhance my life and how I carry myself. And I must say I have. I'm that kind of person that is determined to do that with every engagement. So I really appreciate your generosity of sharing and spirit and all the things that you have brought into this space. And the thing with misogynism, I actually, all those labels, I shy away from them anyway. But when people are coming at me using that term, I'm like, shoot, okay. But actually, I find them so polarizing, and I don't really believe that we are these things anyway. Like, I'm not going to say that guy Will, he's a misogynist, because I see so much more you're of what you are. So no, I don't believe you're a misogynist, bro.
That's one out of 4 billion women. All right, one down, 399 billion to go.
I mean, I'm happy to help you, and if you ever like thinking about a title, like I feel like maybe you got so much going on. It would be great maybe if it just slowed down occasionally and just really gave everything the time that and the energy that it's worthy of. Because what you're doing with these conversations, they're worthy of having a little pause every now and then. Like, you don't have to keep smashing stuff out, bro. You've actually got these taonga, these little treasures that can be that you're creating. And so, I think just slowing down a little occasionally and giving them the time to come up with some well balanced titles and things like that would be really awesome. I feel like you're probably doing that, starting to do that anyway, like you've explained about your journey and things. And I just really want to encourage you guys to keep keep finding the balance, because sometimes the balance has to be like that, you know, and sometimes it has to be like that. It's not always here, you know, especially depending on who is in the space, you know, like if there are women in a space who aren't feeling so great and they're talking about trauma, then maybe you got to ramp up how you support them, you know what I'm saying? Like, be really sensitive if a woman is sharing some stuff that's quite traumatic. Like you say, it takes courage for a woman to come on here and feel confident and safe enough to talk and share these things. So yeah, give her the props, prop her up, uplift her. Think of ways to uplift women, because you guys are going to have daughters one day and you're going to find yourself in that position. And that's how I've been humbled enough to learn, is through my eras with my sons and with my grandson. It's not just about their father or a partner. So thank you for the wonderful time and space that we've shared together. Thank you, David, for sharing a little bit about your family. I really appreciated that, and hearing about your genealogy as well. Like, it's beautiful. Taniela, ngā mihi kia koe. Maybe we can meet one day, seeing as we're both in Aotearoa.
Look forward to it.
Yep. And Will, all the best to you, brother. Kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawa nui. Be strong, have courage, continue to have a big heart. And yeah, I look forward to tuning into your next session.
I know. Thank you so much. And also, how can they find you? How can they find you?
Well, I'm on social media, so yeah, you can find me through my name, Nina K. Alive with Nina K is my Facebook, and then just Nina K Tani Tinoro on Instagram. Yeah, pretty easy to find.
All right, no worries. And tell your brother, hey, he's always welcome to come and have a conversation with me.
Oh, yeah, cool. He might be into that.
All right, like I said, I'm always open to listen and let's have a conversation. But if he thinks that way, that's fine.
Yeah, cool. I will, well, because I've got a few brothers here that I reckon would be really keen to jump on and yarn with you guys for sure.
All right, yeah, no worries. Hey, I'm always like, I understand how they perceive it, but I'm always open to have a conversation with them. All right, awesome. But thank you so much, Nina. I appreciate you. David and Daniela, always appreciate you. The live chat, thank you so much, everybody on the live chat. Much love. I see a lot of your followers on here, Nina. So thank you so much for all the Nina followers jumping on this podcast, watching it for the whole entirety. Thank you so much for your love and support. We do this every single Saturday. So we'll see you guys next Saturday, same time. And Nina, you have a very blessed night, okay?
You
Peace,
too.
y'all.
See ya.